Chapter 764. Too expensive. Lu Yi didn't know whether it was expensive or not, but it was definitely true. After that, they entered the familiar haggling process. Although he didn't lack merit points, he didn't want to squander them casually. After probing each other, the price was finally set at 23,000 merit points. Lu Yi raised his hand and the Heaven's secret contract appeared in his hand. He quickly drafted various terms and imprinted his own mark on it before handing it to the woman. The woman took it and imprinted her own mark. Thus, the Heaven's secret contract was completed. Within half a month, I will contact little friend. Little friend, please wait for my good news. The woman said finally. Why is it taking so long? Last time, it only took 3 days to upgrade the spirit artifact. Even if it takes longer this time, it shouldn't take half a month. This old master has other things to do recently. The woman explained casually. It was mainly because her cultivation had reached a critical juncture. If Lu Yi hadn't taken the initiative to contact her this time, she wouldn't have come out. Lu Yi nodded. He didn't care too much. Half a month was half a month. He immediately left the Heaven's secret treasury. When he came back to his senses, he heard Yi and Shui Yuan talking. Shui Yuan had sensed Lu Ye's aura and ran over to investigate. Second senior sister. Lu Yi turned around and bowed respectfully. I haven't seen you for many days. Shui Yuan's aura seemed to have become a little more vigorous. Clearly, her cultivation had improved. From this, it could be seen that her talent was also top-notch. When a cultivator reached the Spirit Sea realm, their cultivation would increase. It wasn't so easy. There were many Spirit Sea realm cultivators in the 9 provinces, but most of them were below the 5th order. Spirit Sea realm cultivators only accounted for about 30% of the total number. Looking at Shui Yuan's cultivation progress, her limit was obviously beyond the 5th order Spirit Sea realm. Why did you come back at this time? Although she was happy to see Lu Yi and Yi, this was a critical period in the Cloud River competition. Lu Yi running back at this time made her worried, thinking that Lu Yi had encountered some trouble. I was looking for Grandmaster Yu to upgrade my saber, Lu Yi explained. Shui Yuan knew that Lu Ye's mountain plate saber had always been upgraded by Grandmaster Yu. After learning that there was no accident, Shui Yuan was relieved. Looking at Lu Yi, Shui Yuan sighed in her heart. Lu Yi had caused quite a commotion in the Cloudy River battlefield. The novice Renan was not a good-for-nothing who only had cultivation but no corresponding strength. He felt gratified. After speaking with Shui Yuan for a while, Lu Yi brought Yi to pay respects to the sect master. The old man was still the same as before. He was full of energy and didn't give too many profound teachings. He only asked Lu Yi and Yi about some of the interesting things that happened outside, laughing from time to time. The headmaster was undoubtedly very satisfied with Lu Yi, a disciple he had practically picked up. Lu Ye's contribution to Blue Blood Sect's current prosperity could not go unnoticed. If Lu Yi had not left his name in Blue Blood Sect would have been removed from the sect by the heavens during the sect ranking ceremony a few years ago. A moment later, Lu Yi left, leaving Yi behind. Lu Yi was just a disciple of the Blue Blood Sect, but he could be said to be the sect master's personal disciple in name. Almost all of her spirit techniques had been personally taught to her by the sect master. It was rare for them to meet, so naturally he wanted to test Yi's progress on the Tao of spirit techniques and then teach her some more profound things. An enticing fragrance wafted out of Shou Zhengfeng's small kitchen. Shui Yuan was preparing food, and Lu Yi walked in to help her. The two of them chatted casually and happily. Although there were many disciples in Blue Blood Sect now, there were still not many people in the sect. Occasionally, a disciple would return from the Spirit Stream battlefield, but they would all leave in a hurry. The main reason was that the cultivation of the disciples was not high, and most of them were cultivating at the Spirit Stream battlefield. Lu Yi and a few other Cloud River tier cultivators also stayed at the Cloud River battlefield all year round. In this regard, Blue Blood Sect could not compare to other well-developed sections. However, time would always change everything. One day, when the cultivation of the disciples in the sect gradually increased, the hundreds of spirit mountains would also become lively. Lu Yi was looking forward to that day. I heard from Yi that your fourth senior brother is also cultivating with you now? At the dining table, Shui Yuan said casually as she served Lu Yi food. When you go back, tell him to drink less and don't learn from the Beixian swordmaster. It was the first time Lu Yi heard that fourth senior brother's drinking was influenced by the Beixian swordmaster. Ever since Jean Cloud River, fourth senior brother has not drunk much. Second senior sister, don't worry. Previously, Li Baxian's spirit cavities were broken, and he was depressed. He could not improve his cultivation, so he drank to drown his sorrows. However, after his spirit cavities were repaired and he advanced to the Cloud River tier, he really did not drink much. At the very least, Lu Yi had only seen him drink once on the Cloud River battlefield. It was when he brought Hua Ci back a few days ago, and fourth senior brother gave him a welcome dinner. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Lu Yi bid farewell to Shui Yuan and rushed to Bright Heart Peak to visit Madame Yun. He was not considered a disciple of the sect master, but he could be considered a disciple of Madame Yun. Although he had a divine item like the talent tree, his foundation in the Tao of spirit patterns was taught by Madame Yun personally. Along the way, he went to Moon Lake to catch a few fish as a gift. Madame Yun was still the same as before, gentle as jade. Now that Lu Yi had a high attainment in the Tao of spirit patterns, Madame Yun no longer needed to teach Lu Yi in detail like in the early days. Basically, Lu Yi raised some doubts in his heart, and Madame Yun answered and dispelled them. As the saying goes, the master leads the way, but the cultivation depends on the person. After a series of questions and answers, Lu Yi gained a lot. Madame Yun was naturally very satisfied with the performance of her disciple who did not have a title. She had seen countless people in her life, but she had never seen anyone with such high comprehension of the Tao of spirit patterns as Lu Yi. This was also the reason why she wanted to accept Lu Yi as her disciple. As a result, the sect master obstructed her, and she was so angry that she hit the sect master. In fact, the sect master did not want to ruin Lu Yi's future, because he knew that no matter what his attitude was, Madame Yun would teach Lu Yi carefully. He just wanted to use this method to pull in a strong support for the Jade Blood sect. It would be best if Madame Yun publicly became an elder or vice sect master of the Jade Blood sect. In this way, Lu Yi would be justified in becoming Madame Yun's disciple. Moreover, Madame Yun was a famous spirit pattern master in the 9 provinces. With this layer of protection, Lu Yi would have a backer when he went out in the future. He himself was not good, as he had too many enemies. If he relied on him, he would only die faster. In the end, he did not get what he wanted, and he was beaten for nothing. Since then, Madame Yun did not mention the matter of accepting a disciple, but her teaching of Lu Yi remained the same from beginning to end. Many thanks for Master's guidance. Lu Yi got up and bowed respectfully to Madame Yun. Madame Yun was slightly stunned for a moment, but then she smiled. What did you call me? Master. Although they were not master and disciple in name, they were master and disciple in reality. If he kept calling her Madame Yun, it would seem distant. Therefore, Lu Yi was very willing to call him Master. Madame Yun smiled even more happily and nodded repeatedly. Good, good, good. Her eyes were filled with kindness and love, and she felt that her relationship with Lu Yi had become much closer. That old fart won't let me take you as my disciple. I'd like to see if he can stop you from calling me master. Madame Yun suddenly became complacent again. She wished she could run to the right guarding peak right now and show off to the sect master. Lu Yi did not dare to speak. He just thought that since the two of them had feelings for each other, and they were already so old, why were they quarreling? After all, she was a spirit sea realm cultivator. Although she was happy, Madame Yun quickly calmed down. She looked at Lu Yi and said, I know that you have made a name for yourself outside. Many people see you as a flash of light in their eyes, because it's fast to discover. Master doesn't need you to restrain your edge. It's too late to restrain your edge. However, if one day you encounter a crisis that you can't resolve or an opponent that you can't match, you can try to mention my name. Maybe, just maybe, there will be a chance of survival. The one who would kill Lu Yi must be an expert of the myriad Devil Ridge. Madame Yun was famous in the past, and as the top spiritual tattooist in the 9 provinces, she had helped countless people. Many of them were the upper echelons of the current sections. Ordinary people were not willing to offend them. However, in such a situation, no one could say for sure whether it would be useful to mention her name. Therefore, Madame Yun did not speak too confidently. "Master, my name is Yun Shuechu. Disciple will remember." This was the first time Lu Yi had heard her name. Before, he had always called her Madame Yun. "Master, there's one more thing that I'd like to ask you about." "Master, have you dabbled in the Yanshi Dao?" Yun Shuechu's eyes flashed with surprise. "Why do you say that?" She remembered that she had never shown anything about the Yanshi Dao in front of Lu Yi. The maid on Master's Peak doesn't seem to be a living person? In the past, he had always felt that the maid he encountered every time he came here. The maid who came and sent him off was a little strange. It was just that his cultivation was not high enough and his vision was not enough, so he could not see anything. But this time, Lu Yi saw some details at a glance that he had not noticed before. Perhaps it was because he had once worn the dragon throne, so even if he had not come into contact with the Yanshi Dao, he could see some clues. That maid was not a living person at all. She was more like a Yanshi creation. It was just that she was so lifelike that she looked like a real person. Yun Shuechu was really surprised this time. She did not expect Lu Yi to have such good eyesight. With a thought, the maid walked over and stood beside Lu Yi. She suddenly said, "You think I'm not a living person?" Lu Yi was shocked and stared at the maid in a daze for a long time. Then he came to a realization. "Master?" This maid had never spoken before. At first, Lu Yi thought she was mute. But now, it seemed that it was not that she did not have the ability to speak, but that she needed someone to drive her. At this moment, it was Yun Shuechu's divine thought that was driving her. This maid was actually a creation of Yanshi. Chapter 765. Brightheart Peak. Inside Yun Shuechu's bedchamber, Lu Yi circled around the maid and clicked his tongue in wonder. No matter how he looked at it, the maid in front of him was no different from a living person. There were almost no flaws. But soon, Lu Yi saw that something was wrong. Because there was no movement of spiritual power or divine sense from Yun Shuechu. In other words, this maid was not being controlled by her. Now Lu Yi was a little confused. He could be sure that this maid was indeed Yanshi's creation, but if there was no one controlling her, how could she move? How could she speak? "Master, what's going on?" Lu Yi looked at Yun Shuechu. Yun Shuechu smiled slightly and waved her hand, and the maid withdrew. "Spirit-splitting technique," Yun Shuechu explained. "Strictly speaking, Xiao Dai is my doppelganger." Doppelganger? Lu Yi was shocked. Although he was only in the Cloud River tier and was thousands of miles away from the Spirit Ocean, and didn't know anything about spirit-splitting or doppelganger, he could see some of the mysteries and knew that this was an extremely amazing secret technique. "I didn't tell you this before because I was afraid that you would bite off more than you can chew," Yun Shuechu said. Yun Shuechu said, "Presumably, you have also noticed that in addition to the orthodox cultivation methods of the major sects in the 9 regions, there are also many side paths, such as the array path, the pill path, the path of weapon refining, or the path of Yanshi. But no matter which one it is closely related to the spiritual inscriptions. Even the spells used by the sect of Dharma cultivators are inseparable from the spiritual inscriptions. These can actually be regarded as branches of the spiritual inscriptions." Lu Yi nodded. As a spirit tattooist, how could he not notice this? For all other paths, the path of spirit veins is the foundation. If the path of spirit veins is strong, then no matter what path one cultivates, one can achieve twice the results with half the effort. Just like how Lu Yi could advance by leaps and bounds in the path of formations. Of course, he had received a huge reward from the 2 times he had challenged the 100 Formation Pagoda, but it was also inseparable from his solid foundation. And all of these were benefits brought about by the path of spirit veins. Lu Yi had already cultivated the path of formations, so Yun Shuechu never mentioned other paths to him. In fact, if Lu Yi hadn't taken the initiative to ask, she wouldn't have told him about it. To outsiders, Yanshi's Dao seemed miraculous, but if one really wanted to cultivate it, they would need to spend a great deal of energy and wealth. For cultivators like Lu Yi, whose cultivation was not high and whose main mission was to raise their cultivation, it was not advisable for them to come into contact with it too much. Especially when Lu Yi cultivated the array Dao. How did you know? Yun Xuechu asked. Back then, when she settled down in Clear Heart Peak, Shui Yuan came to visit her a few times. However, she didn't discover any flaws. One must know that Shui Yuan was already in the true lake stage back then. She didn't think that Shui Yuan's eyesight would be inferior to Lu Ye's at that time. Master, please take a look at this. Lu Yi took out the damaged dragon throne from his storage space. This is... Yun Xuechu's expression immediately became serious. He reached out to take the dragon throne and gently stroked it. Divine light surged in his eyes as he carefully examined it. After a long while, she revealed a shocked expression and raised her head to look at Lu Yi. Where did this thing come from? Although this Yanshi armor was damaged beyond recognition, she could still see its terrifying power when it was in perfect condition. This thing, let alone her, no one in the entire 9 prefectures could create it. Lu Yi briefly recounted his experience in the Soaring Dragon realm and also the origin of the Dragon Throne. The reason why he asked Yun Xuechu about Yanshi was to ask her to help repair this Yanshi armor. Originally, he planned to wait until his cultivation was higher and personally go to the Qianji Pavilion to find the Spirit Sea stage cultivator there. Although they didn't know each other and didn't have any friendship, as a Yanshi, it was impossible to not be moved by such a divine object. If this Yanshi armor could be repaired, it would be of great benefit to the person who repaired it. But if his own master was also an outstanding Yanshi, why would he need to ask for help from an outsider? Knowing that the Dragon Throne had experienced such a magnificent battle, Yun Xuechu's eyes flashed with a clear look of heartache. If this thing was in perfect condition, she would be able to comprehend many mysteries from it. Even if it was damaged to this extent, its value was immeasurable. To her, this thing was simply an extremely precious gift. Leave this thing with me, I will find a way to repair it, Yun Xuechu said, but the person who created this thing has attainments in the Yanshi Dao that I can't compare to. I don't have absolute confidence, and even if it is repaired, it may not be comparable to the original power of the Yanshi armor. This disciple understands. Lu Yi nodded. Master, please do as you wish. Even if you can't repair it, it doesn't matter. As she spoke, she took out the huge dragon spine blade and placed it horizontally in the hall. This thing is part of a set. The dragon spine blade was also damaged, its luster dim and its surface mottled. But even so, Yun Xuechu could still feel the monstrous ferocity hidden in it. Suddenly obtaining such a divine object, Yun Xuechu couldn't wait to immediately go into seclusion to comprehend its mysteries. Seeing this, Lu Yi naturally didn't want to disturb his master and respectfully left. He went to Yun Xuechu's library and returned the books that he had taken out last time. He also took out some books that he hadn't read before. Although there were many books here, Lu Yi had already read nearly half of them. He believed that it wouldn't be long before he finished reading all the books here. Xiao Dai sent him off again, but this time he didn't dare to be rude. Regardless of whether she was a clone or not, she was still his master. He respectfully left. Now that he had 2 more masters, Lu Ye's mood couldn't help but be subtle. After leaving the Clear Heart Peak, he didn't return to the main peak and went straight to the Green Bamboo Peak. This was Lu Ye's spiritual peak in the Jade Blood sect. Speaking of which, he was also the peak master of the Green Bamboo Peak. In other large sects, a peak master was qualified to accept disciples and teach them. The Jade Blood sect's main sect didn't have many people, and Lu Yi was the only one on the Green Bamboo Peak. Moreover, his cultivation was still low, so he naturally wouldn't accept disciples and teach them. His own Dao had just started, so how could he be qualified to teach others? He didn't see who was obviously still listening to the teachings of the sect master. Only Hu Pe, whose stomach was bulging from being fed by his second senior sister, was lying on the peak and sleeping. There were still a few days before the second round of the Cloud River battle. Lu Yi took pills and cultivated while immersing himself in looking at the source of the soaring dragon. Time passed. Sensing that it was about time, Lu Yi got up and rushed to the main peak. The Jade Blood sect's Tianji pillar was at the main peak, and participating in the Cloud River battle required the use of the Tianji pillar, so he had to go to the Tianji Hall. Just as he moved, he saw a stream of light fly out from the Clear Heart Peak and go straight to the main peak. Master? Lu Yi was surprised. The figure that flew out from the Clear Heart Peak was Yun Xuechu. The other party also saw him, and just nodded slightly at him, then flew over with a shocking aura. On the main peak, the sect master obviously sensed something and immediately went out to greet him, just in time to see Yun Xuechu's figure descending from the sky. Realizing that she didn't come with good intentions, the sect master asked in shock, "What's wrong? Come with me." Yun Xuechu looked like she couldn't be bothered to talk to him, and stretched out her slender hand, which instantly turned into a spirit energy hand, grabbing towards the sect master. Under this grab, it seemed like the entire world was going to be in her hand. The sect master's spirit energy and chi burst out, and an invisible wave of chi swept out, shattering the spirit energy hand that grabbed towards her. The sect master was stunned for a moment, and with an embarrassed expression, he said, "I didn't do it on purpose," but then again, anyone who faced such a scene would involuntarily want to resist, not to mention, he didn't even fight back. "Don't talk nonsense." Yun Xuechu's expression was completely different from the warm one she had when facing Lu Yi, and was full of coldness, once again reaching out to grab the sect master. A long sigh came out, and the sect master didn't resist this time. He could see that this woman was looking for him for something, and not to fight. It was just that, in any case, he was a dignified headmaster of a sect. In front of the few disciples of his sect, he had been captured like a little chick. What kind of scandal was this? Also, what was this woman doing? With a face full of worry, he didn't dare to say more, let alone resist. The spirit energy hand grabbed him and quickly flew away, falling into the Clear Heart Peak. Lu Yi came to the main peak and heard Yi shouting in panic in front of Shui Yuan, "Second senior sister, it's not good, the sect master has been taken away." Shui Yuan sighed deeply, "No need to pay attention to it, go do your own thing." The sect was unfortunate. Luckily, there weren't many people in the sect now, or else the old man's face would be completely lost. He looked at Lu Yi worriedly, and Lu Yi comforted her, "It's fine." His own master had taken Yi's master away, and it was really not good to get involved in this matter, so he pretended not to see. After letting Yi return to Hupo's body, Lu Yi stuffed Hupo into the spirit beast pouch, and then came in front of the Tianji pillar. There was still no news of Master Yu, and the upgrade of the Pan Mountain Saber obviously hadn't ended. However, this was also within Lu Ye's expectations. It didn't affect him much. Checking his own battlefield imprint, there was another column of information below the number of victories in the Cloud River battle for supremacy. Ranking, top 3,000. The 7 days of the initial stage of the Cloud River battle for supremacy had already ended. Among the countless Cloud River tier cultivators, the strongest 3,000 were selected to continue to the next round of battles. This additional column of information undoubtedly meant that Lu Yi had obtained the qualification to enter the next round. He believed that fourth senior brother and the others should also have this qualification. Even if it was Hua Si, Lu Yi wasn't worried. This woman was a medical cultivator on the surface, and her methods of using poison were undetectable. Moreover, her current cultivation wasn't low, and even if those 9th order cultivators met her, unless they finished the battle quickly, once she found an opportunity, they might not even know how they lost. The 3,000 people had been selected, and the second round of battles was about to begin. Chapter 766. This time, Heaven's Secret didn't play any tricks. Lu Yi waited quietly for a moment until the mark on the back of his hand moved. Only then did he raise his hand and press it on the Heaven's Secret pillar. His vision blurred and he appeared in the battle arena. Looking up, he immediately saw a figure rushing into the distance, directly arriving at the edge of the battle arena. His reaction is fast. Furthermore, his opponent was clearly a spell cultivator by pulling away from the enemy as soon as the battle began. Lu Yi didn't even have time to look around before a bright spirit art flew towards him. This was the battle of the clouds and river, not a sparring match between cultivators. Regardless of whether they were from the same camp or not, they were all enemies here. There was no need to fight to the death, But since they were already in the top 3,000, they would definitely give it their all in every battle to fight for a spot in the top 100. Cultivators who could rank in the top 3,000 were indeed strong. The spirit energy fluctuations coming from his opponent were on the level of a Cloud River Realm 9th Order. One had to know that Lu Yi had fought 100 battles before and had only met a few 8th Order cultivators. He hadn't even met a single 9th Order cultivator. But in this second round, he met a 9th Order cultivator in his first battle. His opponent's attack speed was very fast and his aura was solid. It was obvious that he had a strong foundation. Moreover, from the way he acted, he wasn't the kind of person who would underestimate his opponent. Halfway through his first spirit art, his opponent attacked with another spirit art. Then came a third, and each spirit art was different. It was obvious that he wanted to take down Lu Yi in one fell swoop. Lu Yi raised his hand, spiritual energy surging from his palm, and the yin and yang energies quickly merged. A triangular spirit energy barrier quickly appeared. At a glance, it looked like he was holding a spirit energy shield in his hand. It was the defensive spirit rune. Many spirit arts collided with the defensive spirit rune, causing ripples to spread. The defensive spirit rune only dimmed slightly, but it wasn't damaged. Then, Lu Yi's counterattack began. As spirit energy surged around his body, a lifelike fire dragon appeared, shaking its head and wagging its tail. It bombarded the opponent's position. After the fire dragon, there was a fire phoenix flapping its wings and a huge burning fireball that looked like a small sun. There were also many fierce spirit arts of different shapes. Search. The spell cultivator jumped in fright. Looking at the multitude of spells that covered the sky and covered the earth, how could he not know that he had encountered a formidable opponent? His opponent's casting speed was clearly faster than his own, and the power of his spell also seemed to be stronger than his own. His mouth was full of bitterness. But in order to make a name for themselves in the Cloud River battle, to win glory for their sex, and to obtain the favor of Heaven's secret, some waited for 1 or 2 years, and some waited even longer. Although they couldn't improve their cultivation, their methods against their enemies were much richer than ordinary Cloud River Realm cultivators. With Lu Yi's technique, ordinary opponents couldn't last more than 10 breaths. But this Feng Rulai lasted more than 30 breaths. Although he was in a difficult situation, he made use of every opportunity to close the distance between them. Even if he was at an absolute disadvantage, he didn't have the slightest intention of giving up. From this, one could see the perseverance of this person. Only such a person could go further in the future. After another 10 breaths, in the fierce battle, Feng Rulai found a good opportunity to resist one of Lu Yi's spell techniques and break through many obstacles. A long spear, like a dragon, brazenly arrived in front of Lu Yi. He had succeeded. Chapter 767. Feng Rulai was overjoyed. It didn't matter how high this spell cultivator's attainments in the art of spells were, or how exquisite the spells he could use were. If a weapon cultivator like him were to get close to him, he would definitely not end up well. He had risked his life to take a hit from the enemy just for this opportunity. He could win, he could definitely win. Boundless confidence surged in his heart. The spear he stabbed out was stronger than ever. This was the best spear he had ever used in his life. The spear was like a dragon, and its power was like hell. No Cloud River tier cultivator could block his spear. A short while later, in the Tianji Hall of a first-rank sect in Dingzhou, Feng Rulai's figure suddenly appeared. Spiritual power surged around his body, and his face was pale. His eyes were filled with fear, as if he had just escaped death. His boundless confidence from a moment ago had shattered and fallen to the dust. Recalling the scene before he admitted defeat, Feng Rulai was in disbelief. This was because he had used up all his strength and finally managed to get close to his opponent with great difficulty. Just as he was about to defeat his opponent actually calmly took out a long spear spirit artifact. He casually thrust out his spear. That spear not only broke through his attack, but also caused him to suddenly fall into a huge crisis. If he had not shouted the words, "Admit defeat" quickly, he would have been seriously injured if not dead. That seemingly casual but extremely stunning spear shocked him too much. When his opponent carved that spear, he seemed to see the carelessness of an adult teaching a child a lesson. Martial nephew Feng. A woman's voice came from the side. Unlike the Jade Blood sect, which had very few people, when the disciples of the large sects participated in the Cloud River battle, they would have their elders by the Heaven's Fate Pillar to protect them. Moreover, they would definitely be accompanied by a medical cultivator, because no one could guarantee that their disciples would not be injured when they returned. With a medical cultivator present, they could quickly heal. This woman was the most skilled medical cultivator in the sect. She was also a spirit ocean tier cultivator. "Are you injured?" the woman asked. Feng Ruli recovered from his shock and defeat. He looked at the woman with concern, shook his head and said, "Martial Uncle Nan, I'm fine." The woman's eyes flashed. "You met Luia?" Feng Ruli did not look like he was injured, but he was clearly unsettled, as if he had suffered a setback. There was only one possibility for such a situation. He had been defeated in the previous battle, and it was in a way that he could not accept. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to him. Looking at the current 9 regions, only Lu Ye from the legend had such ability. Feng Ruli shook his head. His mind was already immersed in his opponent's spear. As for whether he could enter the top 100, there was no doubt. If he could not enter the top 100 with a perfect record, then the so-called fair and just Tianji pillar was nothing more than this. After waiting in front of the Tianji pillar for a long time, there was finally movement from the battlefield imprint. Lu Yi closed the book in his hand. Xiong Luodi took out a mask and put it on. He raised his hand and pressed it on the Tianji pillar to relax his mind. Once again, he appeared on the familiar battle stage. Through the mask, Lu Yi raised his eyes and looked forward. What he saw caused him to be slightly startled. Since participating in the Cloud River battle for supremacy, he had encountered more than 100 opponents. However, the foundation of the 9 prefectures cultivators was huge. So no matter where those opponents came from, Lu Yi did not know them. He did not expect to meet one here. Moreover, what made Lu Yi even more puzzled was, why would he meet her here? It did not make sense at all. She cast a slender figure, but the expression in her eyes was indifferent and calm, as if nothing could affect her. Boundless Island, Lanzi. He had only met this woman twice. The first time was during the spiritual stream list battle. She came to challenge him and was defeated. The other time was in the secret realm of the realm of beasts. Under Daji's arrangement, she, Xia Qianqian, and Shen Kitten became his attendants. They followed him to the two-world city to seek refuge. What left the deepest impression on Lu Yi was that this woman was very vigilant. The final battle in the realm of beasts had ended, and everyone was injured. Lu Yi wanted to find an opportunity to kill this woman, but she had already disappeared without a trace. On the contrary, after leaving the realm of beasts, she was waiting for him at the Heavenly Secret Commerce Union to share the profits from selling the beast seal method. If there was something good, she would appear. If there was danger, she would avoid it. Such a person's vigilance could not be low. Lu Yi was surprised to meet her in the second round of the Cloud River battle. Because those who could enter the second round were either Cloud River 8th Order or 9th Order Cloud River Realm cultivators, or people with strong foundations like Li Baxian and Feng Yu, or people with extraordinary talent like Zhu Jia. What made Lan Zi so special? Moreover, looking at her calm and composed demeanor, it seemed that she had not been injured at all throughout the battle. Lu Yi was sizing up Lan Zi, and Lan Zi was also sizing him up. At first, it was just a casual glance and she did not take it to heart, but then a familiar throbbing feeling came from her heart. It was a warning sign. Mo Rant's expression became serious, and her delicate brows furrowed. Looking at Lu Ye's appearance, she immediately knew who she had met. Chapter 768. On the battle stage, after splitting apart Lu Ye's spell, Lan Zi's figure leaned forward slightly, like a cheetah preparing to pounce on its prey. Her powerful aura was also rising rapidly. It was much more powerful than Feng Ruli, whom Lu Yi had encountered before. Lu Ye's eyes lit up. Up until now, he had encountered quite a number of Cloud River 9th Order realm cultivators, and several of them had died at his hands. He had always thought that Xia Liang's strength could basically represent the top Cloud River realm cultivators in the 9 states. However, after this round of Cloud River battle, he realized that he was the one who was ignorant and ill-informed. Xia Liang was no doubt extraordinary, but there were still people stronger than him in this world. For example, Feng Ruli before, and Lan Zi now, and as a weapon cultivator, he was all too familiar with Lan Zi's current state. So, he raised his hand almost instinctively, and a fist-sized fireball flew towards Lan Zi. The lesser fireball technique could be said to be the simplest fire element spell, and it was also the first spell that fire element spell cultivators learned. Search. The fist-sized fireball was extremely fast, and it flew in front of Lan Zi almost as soon as it appeared. This was undoubtedly beyond Lan Zi's understanding. At this moment, her aura was about to reach its peak. She could either dodge the spell or block it with her saber. But no matter which option she chose, it would affect the condensation of her aura. She didn't dare to ignore it, because this simple little fireball actually contained a power that shocked even her. Saber light flashed, and the fireball exploded, scattering sparks everywhere. Her aura had not reached its peak, but Lan Zi had no other choice. Her agile figure instantly pounced out, wrapped in cold killing intent. However, when he raised his eyes, he was greatly shocked. In front of his field of vision, densely packed small fireballs blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they attacked him. It was as if it was raining fireballs. Behind the fireball rain, the spell cultivator wearing a mask was calm and composed. He raised his hand and more fireballs were born and attacked. On the battle stage, fireballs flew around as Lan Zi danced in the air. Her figure darted left and right, but she was unable to break through the line of defense formed by the spells. She was secretly shocked. This magic cultivator was ridiculously powerful. Although she had heard of this Dharma cultivator before, she really didn't take it to heart. This time, she wanted to find Lu Ye to avenge her humiliation. Women always held grudges. She was no match for Lu Yi in the competition for the Spirit Stream list. In the realm of beasts, Lu Yi had wanted to kill her. When she wasn't as strong as others, she could only avoid them and lay low. Now that she was strong enough, she naturally wasn't willing to be left out. However, he had never expected that he would not meet Lu Yi, but actually meet such a ridiculous magic cultivator. Also, this spell cultivator gave her a very strange feeling. His opponent's attainments in magic were obviously very high, but he only used a small fireball to fight with him. It was as if he was deliberately teasing him. What was worse was that there was nothing she could do about it. After struggling for a long time, she couldn't even move forward an inch. She kept bouncing around on the ground. It had to be said that female cultivators were much more beautiful than male cultivators. When Feng Ruli weaved in and out of the spells, it wasn't so beautiful. If one really wanted to compare, Feng Ruli's movements were like a wild boar charging, while Lan Zi was like a fairy dancing. Do you only know how to use small fireballs? After a full 30 breaths, Lan Zi couldn't take it anymore. No matter how good her temperament was, no matter how calm she usually was, her mind was about to explode at this moment. She was like a puppet in someone's hand. If the enemy wanted her to go east, she would go east, and if he wanted her to go west, she would go west. She already knew that she was no match for him, but she was unwilling to admit defeat just like that. What responded to her was a fireball that was bigger than a washbasin. Her opponent seemed to be responding to her. He not only knew small fireballs, but also big fireballs. Lu Ye, don't go too far. Lan Zi was so angry that she almost vomited. Lu Ye was shocked. Play. I'm already like this, and you still recognize me? It didn't make sense. There were so many enemies before, but none of them recognized him. Everyone knew that Lu Ye of the Blue Blood sect was a weapon cultivator who specialized in sabers. How could he use such a mysterious spell? But he didn't expect Lan Zi to see through his identity. In any case, he wasn't familiar with Lan Zi. They fought once on the Spirit Stream list, and in the realm of beasts sealed world. They were together for a while, but that was a long time ago. What was certain was that Lan Zi didn't recognize him at first. Maybe she discovered something during the battle. That was indeed the case. Lan Zi didn't recognize him at first, But even if Lu Yi wore a mask to cover his appearance, his figure couldn't be changed. He was an 8th order cultivator with fire attribute spirit energy. His strength was ridiculously strong. With all these clues, Lan Zi had no choice but to come to a conclusion that she couldn't believe. This Feyao wearing a mask was Lu Yi. She didn't believe that a Cloud River Realm cultivator with the same cultivation as Lu Yi would appear in this world for no reason, and that even she was no match for him. Not to mention, these days, Lan Zi had been thinking about defeating Lu Yi all the time. She had already memorized his aura. Although they hadn't seen each other for a long time, and Lan Zi didn't recognize Lu Yi's aura at first, how could she not have noticed it when he was already trampled to this extent? It's really you. Lan Zi secretly gritted her teeth. Inexplicably, she was relieved. Among all the Cloud River Realm cultivators in this world, only he could be stronger than her. The so-called Feyao wearing a mask was simply a myth. She wasn't that bad. Are you trying to scare me? Lu Yi's eyes darkened, and his killing intent surged. He had wanted to kill this woman for a long time, but unfortunately he missed the opportunity in the realm of beasts' sealed world. After that, there was no news of her. Today, she coincidentally appeared here, and it was a chance. Just now, he didn't think it was fun to mess with her. He was preparing to kill her. You want to kill me? Lan Zi stood in place and tilted her head to look at Lu Yi. She held 2 long sabers, one in front of her and the other behind her back. Even though she was talking to Lu Yi, she didn't let down her guard. Lu Yi could only sigh at this woman's ridiculously vigilant nature. We don't seem to have any deep grudges, right? The doubt on Lan Zi's delicate face was not fake. What a joke. There are so many cultivators from the Myriad Demon's Ridge who want to kill me, but we don't have any deep grudges against each other. It's only right for us to fight to the death. Who told you that? Did anyone need to say that? In the cultivation world of the 9 states, once a cultivator began to cultivate, they would definitely be involved in the conflict between the 2 major factions. Even those itinerant cultivators couldn't stay out of it. What do you mean? Lu Yi frowned. Lan Zi shook her head. In the world, among my peers, the only one who catches my eye is you. I hope you can see the truth. What do you want me to see? The time isn't right yet. You'll naturally see it in the future. Don't come over. If I dare to come over, I dare to admit defeat and reveal your true identity. It was Lu Yi who took a small step forward, which made her wary. Lu Yi was a weapon cultivator who used a saber. If he could cultivate spells to such an extent, Lan Zi wasn't confident that she could block him. After this battle, she once again recognized Lu Yi's strength. Although she didn't know why Lu Yi was hiding and pretending to be a spell cultivator, Lan Zi felt that he must be plotting something. She felt that Lu Yi wouldn't be willing to expose this secret. She was secretly pleased. I can't beat you, but it's not like I didn't gain anything from getting a hold of your weakness. Just as she was thinking about this, Lu Yi had already charged toward her. The distance between them was rapidly closing. An extremely terrifying oppressive aura swept toward her like a tilting mountain. How can this be? Lan Zi's expression changed slightly. Without hesitation she shouted, I admit defeat. The last thing she saw was Lu Yi grabbing a long spear and stabbing at the place where she disappeared. The power of that spear shocked her. She thought that she had something on Lu Yi, but in reality, Lu Yi didn't care at all. He didn't use a saber because the Pan Mountain saber was in the process of upgrading. He wore a mask so that he could fight to his heart's content with the 9 states' elite cultivators and broaden his horizons. Lan Zi wanted to use this to threaten him, but it was useless. There were no more enemies in front of him. Lu Yi also left the space. The 14 battles were over. There were still 5 days before the end of the second round, so the results wouldn't be out yet. As for the battle merits, they weren't too many either. Lu Yi left the Zheng Shou Peak and returned to the Green Bamboo Peak. He cultivated while waiting. What he was most passionate about now was to see the origin of the dragon soaring realm in his mind and accompany the experts who had left their mark on the dragon soaring realm for the rest of their lives. His gains were huge. Each of these experts had their own uniqueness. Each of them had once stood at the peak of the dragon soaring realm. But the more he gained, the more Lu Yi realized one thing. His path was still the path of a weapon cultivator. He still had to use a saber. Only in this way could he have the chance to surpass his seniors. But what made him depressed was that he hadn't met a single weapon cultivator who used a saber even though he had seen them 7 or 8 times. He had even met a sword cultivator. As a result, he did not make much progress in his saber skills. 3 days passed in a flash. When Lu Yi returned from the origin of the dragon-soaring realm, he suddenly sensed that there was a change in the battlefield imprint. The third round of the Battle of Clouds and River hadn't started yet. And this change seemed to be that someone was sending him a message. Lu Yi tried to recover his exhausted mind as he continued to investigate. Someone was indeed sending him a message. The upgrade of the Pan Mountain Saber was completed. Master Yu said that it would be done within half a month. It had only been 10 days. He had kept his promise. But after signing the Tianji contract, no matter how high her cultivation was, she wouldn't dare to go against the agreement. Otherwise, Tianji would punish her. Moreover, at the Cloud River stage of the 9 states, it was unlikely that there would be an opponent that could force him into a long battle. As long as he could finish the battle in a short time, even if he had a top-grade artifact, it would not matter. One after checking the Panshan saber, Lu Yi confirmed that it met his expectations and even exceeded them. Lu Yi sheathed the saber and changed his weapon and imperial artifact to the level of artifacts. His soldiers, bandits, and imperial equipment were only at the level of mid-grade spiritual artifacts. They could not keep up with the increase in his cultivation level. He had not dealt with them before, mainly because as his cultivation level gradually increased, the frequency of him using imperial equipment was not high. For the majority of cultivators, the main purpose of imperial equipment was to increase one's mid-range killing ability. It could be considered a supplementary method, but not the main one. After all, regardless of whether it was a weapon cultivator, body cultivator, or ghost cultivator, they all needed to engage in close combat in order to display their full strength. This was especially the case for Lu Yi, who had already attained a high level of attainment in the path of Dharma cultivation. Weapon manipulation was actually dispensable to him. There was no harm in being prepared. 3 magic artifact-level imperial equipment and weapon caskets were not cheap. Each of them cost over 10,000 merit points. Lu Yi chose a weapon casket with 3 imperial equipment, which cost around 30,000 merit points. He was left with 80,000 merit points. He did not return to the Green Bamboo Peak. Instead, he sat cross-legged in the Tianji Hall. He cultivated and read while refining his weapons. Although he was keen on seeing the origin of the dragon-soaring realm and peeking into the lives of those powerhouses who had stirred up a storm and absorbing the essence of their cultivation, there were some things that should not be rushed. He had a long way to go. He could take it slow. Just like that, a few more days passed. When the battlefield imprint on the back of his hand vibrated, Lu Yi knew that the results of the second round of the Cloud River battle were out. He checked his own imprint and saw new words in the last column. Cloud River Battle Ranking, Top 100. There was no specific ranking. His mind was immersed in this column. While he was taking a breath, he could immediately see familiar and unfamiliar names. There were a total of 100 names. These 100 people were the top 100 of the Cloud River Battle Ranking. Any cultivator who participated in the Cloud River Battle Ranking could check through their battlefield imprint. Lu Yi saw his name, Feng Ru Lai, Lan Zi, Li Ba Xian, Feng Yu Maid, and even Giant Armor. Lu Yi was not surprised that Brainiac Xian and Feng Yuchan could enter the top 100. These two had accumulated a strong foundation in the Spirit Stream realm. In the Immortal Valley, they had also received a baptism from the heavens, which made their foundation even stronger. Now, their cultivation was the only thing holding them back. It could even be said that they were born at the wrong time. If their current cultivation was not at the 7th order, but at the 8th order, Lu Yi felt that they could definitely enter the top 10. But whether they could enter the top 10, Lu Yi was not sure. As for Giant Armor, this silly man was talented. His physique was so strong that it made one's hair stand on end. Lu Yi could not imagine anyone in the Cloud River realm who could pose a threat to him. No matter how exquisite the enemy's techniques were, giant armor could only rely on his physique to break through them. In these 7 days, all the opponents who fought with him suffered unspeakably. Giant armor did not pay much attention to his opponents. He just charged head-on and chased his opponents around the battlefield. Then, he would exhaust his opponent's spirit chi and force them to admit defeat. It was reasonable that he did not see Hua Xi's name. After all, her cultivation was too low. She didn't have a deep foundation like Li Baxian and Feng Yu, nor did she have giant armor's innate talent. Even though her methods of poisoning were unpredictable, the battle environment of the Cloud River contest was similar to the battle arena. It was very disadvantageous for her. In such an environment, she couldn't unleash her full strength. There were many capable people in the Cloud River realm of the 9 states. Once she encountered an opponent who could defeat her in a short time, she would definitely be defeated. There were only 5 people in the Spirit Stream returning Sky Valley, but they took up 4 spots in the top 100 of the Cloud River battle ranking. How shocking was that? Like the previous 2 rounds, whether it was the 3rd or 4th round, they lasted for 7 days. As such, this grand event lasted for close to a month. In the 1st and 2nd rounds, the Earth cultivators could not choose their opponents. They were all at the mercy of the heavens and were sent into the battle stage. On the battle stage, what kind of opponent they would encounter would depend on their luck. Of course, the heavens worked in such a way. Naturally, it would not be unfair. What kind of cultivator would encounter what kind of opponent? The cultivators themselves could not interfere, but the heavens had a reasonable arrangement. However, in the 3rd round, the cultivators had the chance to choose their opponents. In the 3rd round of the Cloud River battle ranking, in theory, every cultivator would have to fight 10 battles. Finally, based on the results of these 10 battles, their performance, and the cultivators' results in the first 2 rounds, the final ranking would be determined. The reason why it was said to be in theory was because it was not absolute. As he spoke, he suddenly put more strength into his hands. Ing Wuji had no time to panic because his twin sabers were suddenly struck by a force that he could not resist. His 2 scimitars were knocked aside, and the long saber that burned like flames was about to cut down on him. When Ing Wuji's pupils shrank, Zhou Wu's aura fluctuated. Play! Zhou Wu opened his mouth and said, "Invisible shadow, coming and going without a trace." The long saber fell, splitting Ing Wuji's body in half. But Lu Yi raised his brow. This saber strike did not feel like it had hit anything. It felt like it had only split a shadow. What kind of secret technique is this? He immediately turned his head, stared at a certain spot to the side, and exerted strength into his feet, causing the ground to crack as he rushed forward. Go! Ing Wuji, who had hidden himself again, felt his scalp go numb. Has my whereabouts been seen? Impossible! He had already pushed this secret technique to its limit, so there was no reason for it to be so easy for his netherworld radiance to appear. But even if he was still hidden at this moment, it seemed that he could still see the shadow in Lu Ye's eyes. A terrifying sense of oppression swept over as Lu Ye's figure approached, making it difficult for him to breathe. At this moment, he finally understood one thing. Lu Ye, this guy? His perception was unbelievably strong, which was why he could see his whereabouts so easily. And his second saber strike, he definitely could not block it. He no longer had any hope, nor did he make any futile resistance. He hurriedly shouted, "Admit defeat." The moment his figure reappeared, it disappeared, and he was sent out of the arena. Lu Yi paused and sheathed his saber. A moment later, his figure slowly dissipated. In the Tianji Hall of the Sanluo Temple, Ing Wuji appeared with a pale face. He looked around and saw a familiar scene. Only then did he feel relieved. Then he saw the skinny Ing Wuji waiting on the side. He stepped forward with a guilty expression and said, "Master, this disciple has lost." The old man had already guessed when he saw Ing Wuji, so he did not think much of it. A loss is nothing. A cultivator cultivates for a lifetime, and victory and defeat are common. No one can guarantee that they will not lose. Only by facing yourself and recognizing your shortcomings can you become stronger and stronger. Yes. Ing Wuji nodded respectfully. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Master, that Lu Ye's perception seems to be ridiculously strong. Disciple's concealment technique has no effect on him at all. I'm afraid that even my invisible shadow concealment technique is useless. The old man could not help but be surprised this time. He can even see through invisible shadow concealment. Ing Wuji nodded. This is strange. Logically speaking, only those whose cultivation is several minor realms higher than yours can see through your whereabouts. Right now, he is only at the 8th order Cloud River realm. No matter how strong his perception is, how strong can it be? Disciple suspects that he was born with a much stronger mind than others. Jingfang guessed. The strength of one's mind was directly related to the strength of one's soul. Before the Spirit Sea realm, the improvement of a cultivator's cultivation and the accumulation of time could indeed gradually strengthen one's soul, but that was a passive accumulation. There was no way to actively cultivate it unless one took some kind of precious treasure that could increase the strength of one's soul. Such treasures were all priceless. Even Spirit Sea realm cultivators would fight over them. How could Lu Ye, a mere Cloud River realm cultivator, be qualified to obtain them? Therefore, Ing Wuji could only speculate like this, which was quite reasonable. If that's the case, then let him go, avoid him, and when the time comes, we can look back at him. Yes. Ing Wuji responded respectfully, secretly making up his mind. In the future, wherever Lu Ye appeared, he would avoid him. It would be best if he never saw this guy again. Defeating Ing Wuji against Lu Ye would be like playing. In terms of direct combatability, Ing Wuji was even inferior to Xiao Yang, so how could he be Lu Ye's opponent? Returning to Blue Blood Sect's Heaven's Secret Hall, Lu Ye immersed himself in the battlefield imprint and continued to select his lucky companions. He did not have any particular targets and was just randomly choosing. Of course, it was impossible for him to choose his fourth senior brother and the others. After selecting several people in succession, the feedback from the battlefield imprint indicated that these people were currently in battle. It had not taken him much time to deal with Ing Wuji, but the same could not be said for the others. One had to know that the people who were currently fighting were all in the top 100, each of them extremely powerful. It was not something that could be solved in a short time. However, Lu Ye was not in a hurry and continued to choose. There would always be someone who was free. It was not until he chose one of them that the battlefield imprint gave him a different response. Play. A hollow voice sounded in his mind. Challenge Lanzi. This woman is a little unlucky, Lu Ye thought. However, being able to be chosen by him proved one thing. This woman was very strong, so she could determine the winner in a very short time with her opponent. At this moment, she could be considered free. Abnormal. After waiting for a moment, the hollow voice sounded again. The other party has accepted the challenge. You may choose the battlefield. As a weapon cultivator, there was naturally nothing much to say about the choice of battlefield. It was the simplest kind of battlefield. Suddenly, his vision blurred, and he appeared in the battlefield. Chapter 771. You did it on purpose? In the arena, Lan Zi looked at Lu Yi with an annoyed expression. Out of 100 people, he had chosen her. This was not on purpose. What was it? Lu Yi was too lazy to explain anything to her. Not to mention that he didn't do it on purpose. So what if he did it on purpose? He raised his hand and pressed it on the hilt of the Pan Shan saber. In his current state, he was about to charge out in the next moment. Don't make a move. I will admit defeat. Lan Zi's words made Lu Yi feel extremely uncomfortable. Although he had defeated Lan Zi in one match, he had only displayed his magic. He was in the middle of the Cloud River battle. If he didn't fight properly, he would admit defeat. Lu Yi didn't know whether to say that this woman was sensible or not. She was still timid and cautious. Although I don't know how I offended you, to make you so targeted, I still want to say that since you can't kill me, it doesn't matter how you target me. Use it. Also, I can't say what you said last time. Before he could finish his words, Lu Yi had already rushed out. Under the support of Wind Walk, he was behind him. He left an afterimage. Lan Zi was furious and blurted out, "Admit defeat." As her figure disappeared, Lu Yi rushed to the place where she was originally standing. In front of her, If you admit defeat, then admit defeat. Cut the crap. However, he didn't know that after Ingwuji, there was a second person in this world. He didn't want to see him. The battles in the top 100 were indeed very intense. Basically, every battle had to be fought. After a long battle, according to the rules set by Tianji, there were 3 people who were challenged. They had 2 hours of rest time. In other words, even if the person who was challenged accepted the challenge, there were 3 hours. They had time to adjust their condition and recover from their injuries. As a result, Lu Yi had a long gap between each of his battles. After defeating Lan Zi, he waited for a full 12 hours before he succeeded. He challenged his second opponent. The battle ended very quickly. Naturally, he had won a complete victory. It had to be said that the people in the top 100 of Yunhe were all extraordinary. They were afraid of knowing that it was Lu Yi who challenged them, even if they were injured. However, no one had ever rejected his challenge. There were even people who took the initiative to challenge him. They might not believe that Lu Yi's strength was as exaggerated as the rumors said. Maybe it was just out of confidence in himself, or maybe he didn't want to miss out on being with Lu Yi Zichen had a chance to fight. In short, these people came from the top sections. After fighting with Lu Yi, regardless of whether their bodies were injured or not, the Heavens Chosen who had fought with Lu Yi had all recovered. More or less, there was some trauma in the heart. Because the strength displayed by Lu Yi had already exceeded their understanding. The limit. What everyone didn't know was that this wasn't Lu Yi's limit. According to the rules of Tianji, he was allowed to bring amber with him. With the fusion of his qi and blood, his strength would become even stronger. 2 days later, the 10 battles were finally over. He returned to the green bamboo peak and continued to cultivate. Soon he forgot about the flow of time. Fleeting. Lu Yi only came back to his senses when the battlefield imprint moved. The 3rd round of the Cloud River contest had ended. He checked his own battlefield imprint. He saw that the information recorded in the last column had changed. Cloud River Battle Ranking, 1st place. The first round of the Cloud River Battle for Supremacy was to select from the countless cultivators of the Cloud River tier. 3,000 people. In the second round, 100 people would be selected from the 3,000. However, there was no ranking in these 2 rounds. There was only the 3rd place. After the end of the round, the top 100 of the Cloud River Battle would be temporarily determined. The ranking was then revealed. These 100 people were undoubtedly the most powerful in the 9 states Cloud River realm in the past 5 years. The essence could be said that all of them had the potential to break through to the Divine Sea realm. As soon as the second round ended and the list was announced, it caused a stir. All the sects in the 9 states paid attention. Now that there was a ranking, their attention was even more intense. The excitement was even higher. Even though they had already predicted it, when the masters of the various sections. When they saw the name in first place, they still found it hard to believe. With his Cloud River 8th Order cultivation, he suppressed all the geniuses of his generation. The Cloud River battle for supremacy in the 9 states had never happened before. Every generation of Cloud River battle for supremacy, without exception, it was always Cloud River. The cultivation of the 9th Order. The difference in cultivation of the 1st Order was often the difference between heaven and earth. If an 8th Order could take the 1st place, how terrifying would a 9th Order be? Strength? And after this Cloud River battle for supremacy, Tianji would give out another reward. Lu Yi was not far from the 9th Order. There was no room for human intervention in the ranking of the list. It was the luck of Tianji. Naturally, no one questioned the fairness of Tianji. In other words, Lu Yi to be ranked first, he had the strength to be ranked first. Fortunately, others had a chance because this list was only temporary. Alright. The 4th round of the Cloud River battle for supremacy was the ranking battle. Through the victory and defeat of the 3rd round of battles, as well as the cultivator's performance in the previous battles. From the looks of it, he should be the kind of person who stopped in the Cloud River realm. He stayed for a long time and deliberately did not advance to the true lake realm, just to wait for the Cloud River battle. The kind of person. This kind of person usually did not move around the Cloud River battlefield. They were basically in the 9 prefectures. Even if he had made a big name for himself before, as time passed, he gradually calmed down. Looking up, among the top 10, the latest chapter, www.Zayashwaxiap. Calm belonged to the kind of people who seemed to have suddenly appeared. But if these people's names were placed 1 or 2 years ago, many people in the Cloud River battlefield would definitely know. Just like him today. Lan Zi was ranked 11th. Although Lan Zi admitted defeat in front of him twice, this woman was actually very strong, but she was born at the wrong time. According to Lu Ye's estimation, her strength was definitely in the top 10. But the main factor that affected the ranking of the list in front of him was the previous battle. Lan Zi had been defeated by him before, so it was impossible for him to rank her too high. However, as long as she really had the corresponding strength, she could naturally take her time. Take her time to fight. Feng Ru Lai, who had once introduced himself to him, was ranked 15th. These were not Lu Ye's concern. He just glanced at it and did not close it again. Finally, he found the name he was looking for on the 36th list. Giant Armor. This big guy had really achieved an incredible result. Compared to Lu Ye's cultivation, his cultivation was even lower, only Yunhe's. He was only in the 7th order, but he was ranked 36th. It was already a very high ranking. This meant that in the previous battles, he had been defeated. The number of times was definitely not more than 3. There were still benefits to having a strong physique. When facing an enemy who cared about your secret techniques, just charge through. However, Giant Armor's ranking was higher than 4th senior brother and Feng Yueche. Lu Yi did not expect this. He did not know what the standard of Heaven's secret was. Was it? In the 42nd and 43rd positions. Lu Yi saw Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan's names were both on the list, one in front and one behind. He did not look at the list behind. What he cared about was those close to him. Those close to him were just a few people. As for the others, let's see how many of them there will be in another 10 years. Even Lu Yi himself did not dare to say what he would do in 10 years. In the process of a cultivator's growth, there were too many accidents and disasters. There were many geniuses who had their wings broken before they grew up. The crazy confrontation between the two camps had buried countless cultivators of the 9 regions. Dreams. Soon he arrived at Heaven's Secret Hall. Chapter 772. With the outbreak of battle after battle, the ranking of the top 100 was constantly changing. When someone went up, someone would naturally go down. Names floated up and down on the list, making it extremely lively. Almost every battle would attract the attention of countless cultivators from the 9 states, especially the battles that were ranked at the top. Even the cultivators of the Divine Sea realm would watch them with great interest. Seeing the vitality of the younger generation, they couldn't help but recall their own past. On the first day of the 4th round, Lu Yi didn't receive any challenges and passed peacefully. On the second day, he had nothing to do, so he found Giant Armor's name on the top 100 list and immersed himself in it. The next moment, a clear image appeared in his mind. It was as if this image was directly projected into his mind. This was also a unique way of watching battles for cultivators of the 9 states. In the familiar terrain of the battle arena, the burly Giant Armor was fighting fiercely with a Dharma cultivator. Lu Yi didn't know how long the battle lasted. When he watched the battle, he only saw that the Dharma cultivator's aura was fluctuating, and his expression was both fiery and emotionless as he was chased around by Giant Armor. This kind of terrain was actually not friendly for Dharma cultivators, because there wasn't much space to move around. If he had to choose the terrain of the battle, he would definitely not choose such a place. However, he was the one being challenged, while Giant Armor was the one who issued the challenge. The right to choose the terrain was in Giant Armor's hands. The Dharma cultivator was undoubtedly a Cloud River 9th Order cultivator. His strength and foundation were all extraordinary, and he danced in the air one after another. However, in the face of these powerful Dharma techniques that could make any 9th Order body cultivator retreat, Giant Armor, who was only a 7th Order cultivator, didn't care. He was like a mad beast, breaking every Dharma technique he encountered. Relying on his shockingly powerful physique, he forcibly shattered the Dharma techniques one after another, constantly chasing after the Dharma cultivator. Those powerful Dharma techniques bombarded his body, but at most, they could only slow him down slightly and cause him some flesh wounds. The muscles on his bare upper body bulged, and his entire body boiled like the sun. Lu Yi watched for a moment and knew that giant armor should be winning this battle. The advantages and disadvantages of the giant armor were extremely obvious. The advantage was that its physique was unbelievably powerful, and it could ignore most attacks. At the Cloud River tier, there were very few people who could unleash attacks that could threaten its life. Even the current Lu Yi would have to unleash the full power of the Myriad Stars technique if he wanted to do so. Rewards bestowed by the heavens, such as the golden spirit lots, needed to be taken initiative to enter the heavenly mystery treasure house to collect them. After a short while, Lu Yi left the heavenly mystery hall and returned to Green Bamboo Peak. There were already 20 golden spirit lots in his storage space. He was now an 8th order Cloud River realm cultivator. Not to mention 20 golden spirit lots, even if he only had 10, it would be enough for him to reach the 9th order Cloud River realm. It was almost enough for him to reach the limit of the Cloud River realm. However, he wasn't in a hurry to use these golden spirit lots to increase his cultivation. He had just broken through to the 8th order Cloud River realm from the 6th order not long ago. Even though his foundation was solid and there were no hidden dangers, he still needed some time to settle down. It was fine if he slowly swallowed spirit pills to cultivate, but if he continued to use the spirit lots to increase his cultivation rapidly, it wouldn't be appropriate. Moreover, he was currently invincible in the Cloud River tier. Thus, his thirst for cultivation was no longer as urgent as before. He stayed at Green Bamboo Peak for 2 days. Lu Yi then bid farewell to Shui Yuan. The sect master wasn't at Green Bamboo Peak. Ever since he was taken away by Yun Xuechu, he hadn't appeared again. According to Shui Yuan, the sect master was now helping out at Bright Heart Peak, but Shui Yuan didn't know what he was helping with. Lu Yi had some guesses. He had given the damaged dragon throne to his honored master and asked her to help repair it, so his honored master should be busy with this matter. However, with her strength alone, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to do it, so she grabbed the sect master to help her. Inside the heavenly mystery hall, Lu Yi stood with his saber strapped across his body, Hoopa crouched on his shoulder, and he had already entered Hoopo's body. "Are you ready?" Lu Yi asked softly. Hoopa howled in response. Lu Yi raised his hand and pressed it on the heaven's fate pillar. Light dots immediately appeared in his mind. Each light dot represented a heaven's fate pillar. Among the countless light dots, there were 2 light dots that were different from the others. They appeared to be new and unconventional. They were the heavenly mystery pillars that he had spent merit points to invite from the Cloud River battlefield. One was in the range of the original hunting ground. One was in the spirit land of Return to Heaven Valley. He chose the one in the spirit land of Return to Heaven Valley, and when his vision changed, he had already entered the Cloud River battlefield. "I'm back!" Lu Yi exclaimed as he walked out of the wooden house. No one came to welcome him, and only the demon wolves that were walking around glanced at him. On a protruding rock on the cliff, a figure sat upright like a sword. He didn't have any aura and was dressed very plainly. He looked like an ordinary person. However, this person was very famous in the entire 9 prefectures. He was the current sword master of the North Mystery Sword sect, Mu Suifeng. He might not be the oldest in the Spirit Sea realm, nor was he the oldest in terms of experience. However, he was in the group of people with the most terrifying killing intent. No one dared to underestimate his killing intent. Mu Qingyun walked behind him and bowed respectfully. "What's the matter?" Mu Suifeng didn't turn back and only asked softly, "Master, I encountered a strange thing. Tell me about it." Mu Suifeng knew his disciple's character. If he called it a strange thing, it must be unusual. Chapter 774. In front of the cliff in the Beixian Sword sect, Mu Suifeng's tightly shut eyes slowly opened as Mu Qingyun spoke. A look of interest flashed across his eyes as if he had noticed something. Master, this is very strange. I don't know what to do. Please tell me. Mu Qingyun said. Sword cultivators follow their hearts. Since you can sense it, let nature take its course. Anyway, you're not in a hurry to reach the true lake realm. I understand. After Mu Qingyun left, Mu Suifeng sat still. After a long time, he looked up at the sky with a deep gaze. At the same time, on Boundless Island, on a spiritual mountain near the ocean, Lan Zi, who was dressed in purple, held the golden spiritual stick in her hand. Her lips curled up, revealing a faint smile. She murmured, "Interesting." Without much hesitation, she put away the spiritual lot and stopped cultivating. Instead, she walked out of her bedroom and went straight to the Tianji Hall on Boundless Island. Compared to Mu Qingyun's confusion, she obviously realized something. In the spiritual land in Heaven Returning Valley, Lu Yi looked at Hua Hui. Not everyone was cultivating, so Hua Hui didn't have a brain. Therefore, Lu Yi quickly found her. Contrary to Lu Ye's expectations, Hua Ci directly took out 2 golden spirit sticks and handed them over to him. Search. Hua Hui got into the top 300 in the Cloud River battle. Although the reward wasn't very rich, she still got 2 golden spiritual lots. I said that my cultivation method is different from ordinary people. This thing is not very useful to me. It wasn't that it was completely useless. With the help of spirit sticks, spirit pills, or breathing in and out the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, Hua Ci could also raise her cultivation level using other cultivators' cultivation methods. However, the main purpose of her cultivation wasn't to improve her cultivation. At the same time, she could also strengthen her poison. That was her cultivation method. If she only improved her cultivation, there would be a day when her poison wouldn't work on her enemies. Take her now as an example. No Cloud River Realm cultivator would dare to attack her. Even some true Lake Realm cultivators with lower cultivation would be a threat. However, true Lake Realm cultivators with higher cultivation would be able to resist her. She did not have an effective countermeasure against the enemies of the Lake Realm. She did not have any effective countermeasure. She did not have a good countermeasure. She was a medical cultivator, so they couldn't let her fight the enemy head-on. Also, this isn't a gift to you. Just treat it as a reward. What reward? Lu Yi was puzzled. Escort me to a place tomorrow. Lu Yi gradually came to his senses. You want to hire me as your guard? Hua Ci's eyes curved into crescents. I just don't know if this bit of reward is enough to invite Cloud River's #1. Lu Yi couldn't help but sneer, casually replying, I'm afraid it's not enough. Then what should we do? Hua Ci's expression suddenly turned pitiful. Her voice was faint as she said, I don't have anything valuable on me. If there's really no other way, then I'll have to pay with my body. Lu Yi looked around with a guilty conscience, fearing that Yi might hear her. Only when she found that Yi was not nearby did she feel relieved. He reprimanded Hua Ci and said, You are such a woman, you are always so careless with your words. If you are like this, be careful, I will follow you. Hua Sui's expression was even more aggrieved. It's not like I haven't hurt you before. She still remembered the slap in Tianji Gao Jinyan's room. Lu Yi did not want to continue the conversation. Escorting you is not a problem. You can keep this spirit stick for yourself. Who knows when you will need it? You don't have to give it to me. She turned around and walked a few steps before she remembered. You want to go? 5 Poison Pool. The Spirit Stream battlefield had a forbidden area like the 10,000 Poison Forest, which was covered in poisonous fog, so the Cloud River battlefield naturally had a similar forbidden area. Such places were always fraught with danger, and even the 8th and 9th Order Cloud River Realm cultivators would not easily set foot in them. But for Hua Ci, there was no better cultivation environment in this world than such a place. She cultivated in Returning Heaven Valley's spirit land mainly by refining the poison pills that Lu Yi gave her. She did not absorb any world energy, so her cultivation progress was not great. But with the inheritance she obtained, as long as there was a suitable cultivation environment, she would be able to grow rapidly in a short time. When she first entered the Cloud River battlefield, she wanted to find a place similar to the Forest of 1,000 Poisons. However, before she could do so, she heard from Li Baxian that Sueye was trapped in the map. She immediately set off to rescue him. After that, she was brought to returning Heaven Valley's Shell Land by Wei Yi and participated in the Cloud River battle. During this time, she bought a 10-point map from the Tianji treasure house and used it to find a suitable place for her cultivation. Finally, she found a place like 5 Poison Ba Waterfall. Now that the Cloud River battle was over, it was time to set off. The journey was not short. She would be safer if Lu Yi escorted her there, so she could avoid any unexpected accidents along the way. After discussing this matter with Hua Ci, Lu Yi took out the 10-point map to search for the location of the 5 poison pool. Soon, she found something. On the 10-point map, the 3 words 5 poison pool appeared pitch black and deep, giving people a sense of unease. Anyone who saw it would know that this was a dangerous place that could not be easily trespassed. Just as she was about to put away the 10-point map, Lu Yi seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly glanced along the route from returning Heaven Valley to the 5 poison pool. A moment later, he put away the 10-point map and headed in the direction of the Tianji pillar. Li Baxian, Feng Yu, and Giant Armor were all in closed-door cultivation, so it was not good to rashly disturb them. Fortunately, cultivators had a high frequency of ketogenic, allergic, and acidic substances, so there was no need to specially inform them when the 5-flower charm test opened. When Yuan Tu and the others came out of closed-door cultivation and could not find her, they would definitely send a message to ask. It would not be too late to explain it to them then. When the night was silent and the sky was bright, Lu Yi packed up and walked out of his wooden house with Cheng Pe. At the same time, the door next door was pushed open. "Let's go." Lu Yi called out and took out his spirit boat. Hua Ci unceremoniously stepped on it and sat down diagonally. Lu Yi glared at her and could only follow. As he channeled his spiritual energy, the spirit boat soared into the sky. Along the way, his nose was filled with Hua Ci's unique body fragrance. He flashed out and was chatting with Hua Ci. Along the way, her bell-like laughter scattered. When his cultivation was not high, he had to be careful when flying on the cloudy river battlefield. He could not fly too high. If he flew too high, he would not be able to escape if he encountered an unstoppable expert. He could not fly too low either. If he flew too low, he would most likely be ambushed from the ground. A height of around 100 copper coins was just right. Thinking back to when he first entered the cloudy net battlefield and his various experiences and tricks, Shu Yi could not help but curse. Now, he naturally did not need to care about these things. He could fly however he wanted and as high as he wanted. If there was any trouble, the saber in his hand would teach them a lesson. In the blink of an eye, his cultivation was about to reach the limit that the cloudy river battlefield could accommodate. Looking back, he did not seem to have been in the cloudy river battlefield for long. Compared to the time he spent cultivating in the Spirit Stream battlefield, it was even shorter. Once he reached the true lake stage, it would be time to leave the cloudy river battlefield. When that time came, what would welcome him would be the vast stage of the 9 continents. As his cultivation increased, his speed on the cloudy river battlefield also increased. In just a day, he left Taimang Mountain. At night, he casually found a place to rest in the wilderness and set up an alert and defensive array. He did not have to worry about being ambushed. On the second day, he set off again. Hua Ci quickly realized that something was wrong. Lu Yi, is the direction wrong? The general direction was not wrong, but the angle of the flight seemed to be flat and there was a problem with the shoes. If this could jigging continue to fly, he would definitely bend to the west where Wu Bo Piao was. That was right. Huey agreed. I will go and solve some personal problems first. Hua Ci understood and observed a moment of silence for the unknown enemy. She did not ask who Lu Yi was looking for trouble with. According to what she knew, Lu Yi had enemies everywhere in the Spirit Stream battlefield. When he came to the Cloudy River battlefield, it seemed like he was also an enemy. She just did not know who was so unlucky to have him directly go to their door like this. Lu Yi was not someone who did not hold grudges, but he had too many enemies. It was useless to remember the latest update on www.xiaxhuaxiap.com. Moreover, the situation in the Cloudy River battlefield was not the same as the Spirit Stream battlefield. Most of the cultivators here did not have a fixed residence. Even if they wanted to find someone for revenge, they might not have the chance to meet. But there was only one exception. That was a cultivator who owned a spiritual land. Cultivators who owned a spiritual land could not casually move disciples under normal circumstances unless they were willing to bear the consequences of the spiritual land's grade falling. This was because something like a spring spirit, once it was placed, if one wanted to take it out again, the quality would inevitably fall by a solid level. On the Cloudy River battlefield, there were many cultivators who participated in the encirclement and suppression of Lu Yi, but there was only one place where he could take revenge. The holy character's spirit extinction. 5 was that the high character test was not cut and selected by the high character calculation mountain. According to the photo agency, he did not want to go to the Holy Eve's spiritual land, but yesterday. It could barely be considered the route he was taking this time. The heavenly investigation report was very accurate. When they were determining the route, they inadvertently alerted them to the holy character spirit land. It could only be said that they were somewhat unlucky. In the distance, the Holy Eve's spiritual land was in sight. Generally speaking, the radius of 100 miles around such a large-scale spiritual land was almost equivalent to the mountain gate of a sect. If any cultivator dared to approach it, it would be a provocation. Looking at the entire Cloudy River battlefield, the Holy Eve's spiritual land strength was considered strong. The Holy Flame sect and the Huan Yu sect jointly built this spiritual land. It was passed down generation after generation, and it had helped the two sects breed many elite disciples. Such a large-scale spiritual land could be said to be one of the foundations of the two sections. In the spiritual land, there were 300 cultivators. Even if it was attacked, it would not be defeated in a short period of time. And as long as it was delayed for a while, the two sects would naturally send reinforcements from various parts of the Cloudy River battlefield or from their own sections. Therefore, after so many years, even if the Grand Heaven Alliance knew that this spiritual land was jointly built by the two sects, no one had any thoughts about it. However, at this time today, an uninvited guest descended from the sky and shook the protective formation that enveloped the spiritual land. Chapter 775. A large spirit land that could accommodate 200 to 300 people was not easy to achieve. This was the result of generations of hard work by Sacred Flame sect and Huan Yu sect. It was also an important foundation for the two sects in the Cloud River battlefield. In the two sects, not all Cloud River realm cultivators were qualified to enter the spirit land. The number of Cloud River tier cultivators in each generation of the two great sects varied from a few thousand to a few thousand. A single spiritual land was unable to accommodate all of them. Thus, even though the Holy Eve's spiritual land had suffered heavy casualties half a year ago, they were now able to replenish their numbers. Huoliao Yuan, who was originally in charge of this place, died in returning Heaven Valley. The Fire sect sent a Cloud River Realm 9th Order cultivator named Wang Sun to take over Huoliao Yuan's position. He and Huan Yu sect's Tu Guanxiong were in charge of this place. At this moment, the two of them were in the middle of a meeting, and the topic of their discussion was shockingly related to Lu Yi. 4 Cloud River Realm cultivators, the Holy Eve's spirit land was not too far away from returning Heaven Valley. This was also why the Holy Eve's spirit land fought for returning Heaven Valley. Returning Heaven Valley was the reason why they changed their minds. Fa Ko Shi's thoughts were one aspect, while returning Heaven Valley's spirit land was another aspect. Originally, Huoliao Yuan thought that killing Lu Yi and taking back the spring spirit of the returning Heaven Valley's spirit land could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Who would have thought that he would die before his ambition was realized? The cultivators from the two sects that he brought out were almost completely wiped out. Chu Yin and Zhou Pei, who were sent by Sacred Flame sect to kill Lu Yi, spent a lot of time and effort. Not only did they not succeed, but they were also killed by Lu Yi. What's more, Lu Yi, with his Cloud River Realm 8th Order cultivation, was aiming for first place in the Cloud River battle. All of this pointed to one thing. Lu Yi was a great enemy. In the past, they were the ones who went to find trouble with him. Now that Lu Yi had truly grown up, who knew if he would take revenge? If it was an ordinary person, they would not care about a large spirit land. Not to mention the number of people here, even the protective array that enveloped the spirit land could not be broken easily. The Holy Eve's spirit land could exist for so many years, so they naturally had the confidence. But who was Louis? Not only was he extremely powerful, but his attainments in the art of formations were also unimaginable. Back at the Spirit Stream battlefield, the defensive formations of the various sects and clans in the core region were like nothing to him. The defensive formations of the Holy Eve's spiritual land might not have been able to stop him. Once he killed his way into the spirit land, who knew how many disciples of the two sects would be killed? If such a powerful enemy really came to cause trouble, how would the cultivators of the two sects resist? This gave Tu Guanxiong and Wang Bei a headache. Before they could come up with a plan, they heard a deafening explosion. The entire spiritual land seemed to shake violently. What? Tu Guanxiong raised his eyebrows and stood up abruptly. Wang Sun's spirit sects Lu heard. In the next moment, a blood-curdling scream entered his ears. It was short and hurried. It was clearly the sound of someone dying. Tu Guanxiong immediately reacted. Immediately after, the shouts outside entered his ears, causing his face to twitch violently. Louis is here. It's Louis. In an instant, the originally calm spirit land was like a pot of boiling oil that was sprinkled with salt. Figures rushed out of their respective secluded areas in panic. Tu Guanxiong and Wang Qi also came out in a flash. What they saw shocked them greatly. The protective array of the spirit land was still in operation. A visible spirit energy light screen enveloped the spirit land. Logically speaking, if this light screen was not broken, no one would be able to kill their way into the spirit land. However, at this moment, an unfamiliar figure appeared in the spiritual land. Fiery red spiritual power surged, making him look as if he was burning. He held a pitch-black long saber in his hand, and the long saber was also covered with scorching spiritual power. His figure was like thunder. He ran through the spirit land like lightning. Wherever he passed, there was a rain of blood. Not only that, there were 3 streams of light from Imperial equipment. Under his precise control, they constantly attacked the cultivators in the spirit land. No one could block his saber. No one could even block the power of his Imperial equipment. In a short period of time, the spirit land had lost 20 to 30 people. How can he be so fast? Tu Guanxiong was shocked. He and Wang Jun rushed out when they heard the commotion. How long had it been? Louis had already killed his way in. He didn't even say a word before killing everyone. At this moment, the spirit land of the Holy Word was defenseless. How could the scattered cultivators be a match for Louis? Louis, you're courting death. Wang Sun roared and rushed towards Louis. Senior brother Wang. Tu Guanxiong cried out. He couldn't stop Wang Sun at all. He could only grit his teeth and rush out. Then he saw an extremely terrifying scene. Wang Sun, who had rushed out aggressively, was sent flying by Lu Ye's saber. His spirit energy was in chaos and blood splattered everywhere. If Tu Guanxiong hadn't caught him in time, he would have been in an even worse state. He knew that Lu Yi was very strong now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to kill Xiao Liang, Chu Yun, and Zhou Pei. But knowing was one thing. Before witnessing it with his own eyes, he didn't have a clear understanding of how strong he was. Until now. Wang Sun was also a Cloud River 9th Order cultivator. In the previous Cloud River competition, he didn't make it into the top 100, but he was still in the top 300. Among the 9 states Cloud River realm cultivators, he could be considered one of the best. Tu Guanxiong didn't think he was a match for him. But such a top cultivator was sent flying by Lu Yi with a casual slash of his saber. Moreover, he suffered injuries that were neither light nor heavy. How could an 8th Order Cloud River realm cultivator be so strong? Or was it the spirit artifact in his hand? Tu Guanjin's eyesight wasn't bad. He had already noticed that the mountain plate saber in Lu Yi's hand was at the level of a spirit artifact. But even so, Wang Sun shouldn't be so weak. While he was lost in thought, more than 10 people were killed. Fortunately, the The cultivators who were in seclusion had already rushed out. They didn't need any instructions. Facing this enemy who had suddenly broken into their spirit land, they all attacked. In a split second, colorful rays of light, wrapped in the E-energy of spells and weapons, shuttled back and forth in the spiritual land, bustling with noise and excitement. Facing such a concentrated attack, no matter how fast Lu Yi was or how agile he was, he couldn't completely avoid it. The defensive spirit inscriptions on his body continued to shatter and reform, but he was still covered in wounds. He didn't care. Just like when he fought against Xia Liang, he rushed to where there were the most people. The 3 magic table-level imperial tools played a very big role in this battle. With Lu Ye's generous use of spiritual power, the speed and destructive power of the imperial tools were not something that an ordinary Cloud River tier cultivator could withstand. As the streaks of light shot through the air, blood splattered everywhere, and severed limbs flew everywhere. Tu Guanxiong was horrified to find that if this situation continued, regardless of whether Lu Yi died or not, the disciples of the 2 sects in the spirit land would be slaughtered in a short time. Quickly return to the main sects and ask for reinforcements. Tu Guanxiong ordered through gritted teeth. At the same time, he and Wang Jun rushed toward Lu. With the strength that Lu Yi had displayed, cultivators below the 9th order couldn't block a single slash of his saber. Only he and Wang Qi could hold him back for a while. Before the reinforcements of the 2 sects arrived, they had to hold him back no matter what. Tu Guanxiong thought so in his heart, but when he really faced him head-on, he realized that he was too naive. Lu Yi's terrifying strength, wild and violent aura, and indescribable pressure. With just 1 slash of his saber, he was sent flying. Wang Jun was even more miserable. He was injured just now, and now one of his arms was cut off. No matter how tenacious he was in so much pain that his face twitched. How could he block such an enemy? When he, a 9th order Mist Realm cultivator, faced him, it was like a child facing an adult. The extremely long 20 breaths felt like 20 years. The casualties on the side of the Holy Eve's spiritual land had already exceeded 100. Almost at every moment, there were disciples predicting the outcome of the battle. Those who were still alive all had eyes filled with fear and shock, and the might of their attacks had also become timid. Tu Guanxiong deeply understood that when a person was strong to a certain extent, the number of people was meaningless. There were indeed many disciples alive on the Spirit Land side, but in this short period of time, their courage had been shattered. No one had the courage to face Lu Yi head-on. With such low morale, it was only a matter of time before they were all killed. Although he and Wang Qi joined forces to hold back Lu Yi again, it didn't have any effect. Wang Sun was seriously injured and on the verge of death. He himself was also hit by Lu Yi's saber, and there was a huge wound on his abdomen. This was the result of Lu Yi not deliberately targeting them. The other party seemed to have just casually slashed at them. Disaster. This was definitely the biggest disaster since the establishment of the Holy Word Spirit Land. If they couldn't get through this today, the Holy Eve's Spirit Land would no longer exist on the Cloud River battlefield in the future. The 2 sects would also lose their foundation here. If that really happened, it would be a huge blow to the 2 sections. Fortunately, at this moment, several powerful auras suddenly appeared in the Heaven's Secret Hall where the Heaven's Secret Pillars were placed. More auras were emerging from the Heaven's Secret Hall. Tu Guanxiong's face lit up. He knew that the reinforcements of the 2 sects had arrived. It had only been a few dozen breaths since he sent people back to the main sect to ask for help. The reaction speed of the 2 sects could be said to be fast. However, just as joy appeared on his face, it turned into boundless panic. Because Lu Yi, who was slaughtering everyone in the Spirit Land like a god of death, suddenly turned his head to look in the direction of the Heaven's Secret Hall. Then he turned into a fiery red stream of light, wrapped in a violent aura, and directly crashed into the Heaven's Secret Hall. Tu Guanxiong was instantly dumbfounded. Then, a burst of screams and cries came from the Heaven's Secret Hall, as well as the roars of roaring beasts. As the spiritual energy surged, the auras were annihilated like candles being blown out. Tu Guanxiong's eyes trembled violently. He couldn't help but think of a scene that he couldn't accept. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, he felt that it was probably what was happening. Chapter 776. Run. While Tu Guanjin was in a daze, Wang Sbo's empty voice came from beside him. He looked at him in a daze. There was no reaction for a moment. Run! Wang Spo shouted with all his strength. Tu Guanxiong came back to his senses and hurriedly shouted, "E!" Many panicked and uneasy cultivators of the spiritual land obeyed the order. They all urged their bodies and fled in all directions. They had lost the courage to fight against Lu Yi. Tu Guanxiong also hurriedly grabbed the seriously injured Wang Qi and urged his spiritual power. He soared into the sky. After flying for a short distance, there was a rumbling sound behind him, as if something had collapsed. He looked back and saw the original location of the spiritual land's Tianji Hall. Smoke and dust billowed, and the entire Tianji Hall was in ruins. The Tianji Hall here was built by a group of Cloud River Realm cultivators. It couldn't be compared to the Tianji Hall of the 9 prefectures. It couldn't withstand the aftermath of the battle at all. In the dust, a figure slowly walked out, holding a long blade as black as ink in his hand. Who else could it be but Lu Ye? At this moment, the upper half of Lu Ye's clothes had been torn off, revealing his strong upper body. Large and small wounds were densely packed, making him look like he had been soaked in a pool of blood. He looked like a ruthless wolf, but the fierceness of his aura made people not dare to look directly at him. In the collapsed ruins behind him, broken corpses were laid out one after another. There were at least 20 of them. Tu Guanxiong saw many familiar figures. Boundless grief surged out from his heart. Tu Guanxiong spat out a mouthful of blood. There was only one word echoing in his mind. Invincible. One with such strength, there was no one in the Cloud River realm who could pose any threat to him. And what made him feel happy was that Lu Ye didn't seem to have the intention to kill them all. They were more than 10 miles away. She only glanced at him from afar and then ignored him. Lu Yi indeed didn't want to kill them all. The main reason was that it wasn't too realistic. There were at least 100 cultivators from the 2 sects who had escaped, and they were scattered in all directions. He was alone. How could he chase them all? He might as well ignore them. This time, killing the enemy was secondary to him. Their main target was the Holy Eve's spiritual land itself. Previously, the Fire Prairie Fire had the intention to attack the Huitian Valley and him. Who would have thought that in just a few months, they would bring such a disaster to the Holy Eve's spiritual land? I wonder how he would feel if he knew about this in the underworld. In front of the damaged Tianji Palace, Lu Yemin frowned and pondered. Should he go to the Tianji treasure trove and look for a set of protective treasured clothes? Otherwise, after such a great battle, his clothes were ragged. It was also an eyesore. It was the same when he killed Xia Liang and the others, and it was the same this time. But after thinking about it carefully, he decided to make a bamboo hat. Treasured clothes were much more important than spirit artifacts that had similar defensive abilities. If the quality was poor, it would be useless to him now. He would rather use high-quality ones. The price was also expensive. If it was damaged, it would be troublesome to repair. The most important point, during the battle, he still had to use his spiritual power to activate the protective power of the treasured clothes. To a weapon cultivator, being untitled was not desirable. Therefore, in the cultivation world of the 9 regions, the statues generally did not wear treasured clothes. It was not that he could not bear to, but for all weapon cultivators, offense was the best defense. Instead of using a portion of his spiritual power to activate the power of the treasured clothes, Lu Yi might as well construct the defensive spirit tattoos. Only Dharma cultivators with strong bodies would wear treasured clothes. But Lu Yi had killed so many Dharma cultivators that the treasured clothes they wore could only provide limited protection. Yi had already begun to clean up the battlefield. She was collecting the spoils of war. Hua Xi's voice came from outside the protective array. "Open the door." She had been staying outside during the previous battle. After the dust settled, the talisman slowly flew over. However, it was blocked by the intestinal defense array. Lu Yi walked over to her. He looked at the array nodes and threw out array flags. Soon Hua Xiai was brought in. Hua Hui healed him. Her soft hands caressed Lu Ye's chest. Her beautiful eyes were filled with disbelief. The vitality in your body is incredible. The vigorous vitality made Lu Ye's physique stronger, and his recovery ability increased greatly. Therefore, although he looked miserable on the surface, he was actually fine. If there was an enemy who was deceived by this appearance, they would definitely suffer a great loss. With the vitality in his body now, such injuries, even if without Hua Xi's help, would not even leave a scar after a day or two of recuperation. Even though it was not her first time experiencing it, Hua Cho was still amazed. "Just heal me, don't touch me." Lu Yi was tickled by her touch and could not help but glare at her. Hua Xiai pursed her lips and chuckled. She did not tease him anymore. Soon, the healing was complete. Lu Yi went to the spirit spring and washed his body with its water. Then he changed into a clean set of clothes. Then he took out a small net-like object from his storage space. It was only the size of a palm. Hua Xiai was suspicious. What is this? She had never seen such a spirit weapon. Spirit capturing net. It's specially used to capture spring spirits, Lu Yi explained. Hua Xiai understood. So you came prepared? Spirit lands had spirit springs, and there were spring spirits in the spirit springs. Moreover, spring spirits could be captured and plundered. Although Hua Xiai had not been in the Cloudy River battlefield for long, she still knew these common-sense things. This was also the reason why large spirit lands were born in the Cloudy River battlefield. Those large spirit lands were not naturally large spirit lands. Lu Yi had set out from Huitian Valley and came here directly. He had also brought something like the spirit capturing net. It was obvious that he had come prepared. As he spoke, Lu Yi threw the spirit capturing net into the spirit spring in front of him. However, he was still holding onto a long, thin line. No one in the 9 regions knew how to refine the spirit catching net. It was something unique to the Tianji treasure house. In essence, it was not a particularly powerful spiritual weapon, but it was endowed with special abilities by the Tianji treasure house. And such a spirit-capturing net was sold for 5,000 merit points in Tianji treasury. It was definitely not cheap. Lu Yi did not know how deep the spirit spring was. As he held onto the thin line in his hand, he had the illusion that he was fishing. The spirit-capturing net kept going deeper and deeper until it finally reached the bottom of the spirit spring. Soon, Lu Yi felt movement and hurriedly pulled the spirit-capturing net out. There were no twists and turns. After a while, the spirit-capturing net wrapped around a fat, silkworm-like thing appeared in Lu Ye's vision. He had obtained a spring spirit before, so he was not surprised. However, it was Hua Xi's first time seeing this thing. She could not help but feel curious. This is a spring spirit. As she spoke, she even poked it with her hand. The spring spirit seemed to shrink its body lazily. Lu Yi carefully examined the spring spirit in front of him. He did not see much difference between this spring spirit and the one he had obtained before. However, he knew that if he found another place to place this spring spirit, it would only be a B-grade spirit land. The Holy Eve spirit land was A-grade, but once the spring spirit was taken out, its quality would drop by 1 grade. As for the range of the spirit land, it would probably not change much. Of course, Lu Yi would not create another B-grade spirit land. The greatest use of the spring spirit in his hand was to bring it back to Return to Heaven Valley and place it in the spirit spring to expand the scale of the Return to Heaven Valley spirit land. As for how much it could expand, that was unknown. The Return to Heaven Valley spirit land was now only a small spirit land. Although the spirit energy of heaven and earth was rich, it could not accommodate many people. In the future, there would definitely be an endless stream of Jade Blood Sect disciples advancing to the Cloud River realm and stepping into the Cloud River battlefield. Leaving the Return to Heaven Valley Spirit Land here would at least allow the Jade Blood Sect disciples to not have to work so hard in the early stages. Lu Yi took out the reward from the hunting ground, the box containing the spring spirit. He placed the spring spirit in the spirit-capturing net and kept it carefully. "Let's go!" Lu Yi called out and summoned his spirit boat again. He carried Hua Xiai and flew in the direction of the 5 poisons pool. Behind him was a dilapidated spirit land. The smell of blood filled the air. Who would have thought that such a large spirit land that had been passed down for so many years could be broken through by someone with his own strength? Moreover, he had caused rivers of blood to flow in the spirit land. The cause of this matter was that Fire Prairie had previously led people to attack the Return to Heaven Valley spirit land. When the news from the Holy Eve's spirit land spread, the name Sect Destroying Eve once again appeared in the minds of many Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators. Especially those from the Myriad Demon Ridge who had experienced the Dark Age when Lu Yi ruled the Spirit Stream battlefield, they all had a vague feeling. The scene of such a large battlefield being dominated by a single person was about to appear again. For a time, countless Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators were terrified and uneasy. Lu Yi was so vengeful and powerful now. If they really bumped into him in the wild, they would not have a good ending. As a result, many Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators who had once found trouble with Lu Yi either returned to their sects in the 9 states or cultivated in seclusion in the Cloud River battlefield. They did not dare to go out easily. Even the atmosphere of the Cloud River battlefield was much more peaceful. At night, the moonlight was hazy and the bonfire danced. There were hidden array formations all around, providing warning and protection. Hua Si and Yi were roasting meat by the bonfire. The sizzling sounds were constantly heard and the alluring aroma spread in all directions. Lu Yi was bare-chested and practicing his saber not far away. Recently, he had read the secret manual of the Tyrant Saber technique and learned something. Unfortunately, it was not suitable for him to enter the Mirage realm to practice in such an environment. He could only cultivate on his own. Suddenly, Lu Yi's movement stopped. It was not that he had learned something, but that the battlefield imprint suddenly had some strange reaction. It did not seem like someone had sent him a message. Lu Yi had never experienced such a reaction before. Out of curiosity, he raised his hand and tapped on the battlefield imprint. He immersed his mind to investigate. A sudden message exploded in his mind and turned into lines of words. Lu Yi focused his eyes and his expression began to change. This message was not sent to him by someone, but appeared in his battlefield imprint out of thin air. Lu Yi did not need to think to know who in this world could have such means. The content of the message inevitably made one's imagination run wild. Chapter 777. In the Cloudy River battlefield, there were many dangerous and forbidden grounds, and many of them were occupied by Overlord-level demon generals. For example, in the Taimeng Mountains, the territory of the giant berserk ape, no cultivator dared to provoke it. 3. However, there were also many places that were purely hostile. Even a Cloud River tier cultivator would find it difficult to survive in such a hostile environment. The 5 Poisons pool was undoubtedly one of them. The environment inside was not much different from the forest of 10,000 poisons. There were countless poisonous creatures inside. These creatures breathed out all year round, causing the entire 5 Poisons pool to be filled with a poisonous fog that could not be dispersed by wind. However, relatively speaking, the toxicity of the many poisonous creatures and fog in the 5 Poisons pool was much more powerful than in the forest of 10,000 poisons. After all, one was a forbidden land in the Spirit Stream battlefield, while the other was a forbidden land in the Cloud River battlefield. There was still a difference in level. In this forbidden land, there were many kinds of poisonous spiders, poisonous centipedes, poisonous frogs, poisonous snakes, and poisonous scorpions. It was named after the 5 poisons. Although it had the word pool in it, it was not a small pool. If one looked down from above, it was a vast abyss of unknown depth. At a glance, one could not see the bottom of the 5 Poisons pool at all. It was rumored that Overlord-level demon generals lived in it. However, no cultivator dared to approach such a dangerous place. Hence, no one could say for sure whether there were Overlord-level demon beasts here. Search. Lu Yi steered her spirit boat and hovered in the air 1,000 feet above the abyss. Looking down, she could see the poisonous fog churning below, as if some inexplicable vicious creature would emerge at any time. This place. Lu Yi glanced at Hua Si casually. Great danger. Are you sure you want to cultivate here? However, Hua Xi's beautiful eyes lit up. Although she had found the existence of the 5 Poisons pool on the map and deduced from its name that this place was suitable for her cultivation, she had never been here before and had not carefully inquired about the information of the 5 Poisons pool. Now that she saw the environment with her own eyes, she was immediately sure that this was the place she had always dreamed of. To others, perhaps they would avoid it like the plague, but she was rushing like a flock of ducks. Of course, Hua Xi smiled. Taking a step forward, she jumped down from the spirit boat and landed directly below. Her clothes fluttered, and she was as beautiful as a fairy. Lu Yi put away the spirit boat and followed closely behind. At the same time, he immersed himself in observing the reaction of the talent tree. As soon as he entered the range of the 5 Poison pool, the talent tree began to emit gray mist. The further down he went, the more intense the reaction of the talent tree became. From this, it could be seen how vile the environment here was. Compared to the forest of 10,000 poisons, it was at least 10 times worse. Hua Xi, on the other hand, had a joyful expression on her face. She looked left and right, and it didn't seem as if they had arrived at a dangerous place that would cause even Cloud River tier cultivators to shudder at the mere mention of it. Instead, it seemed as if they had arrived at a beautiful garden. This woman, Lu Yi looked at her enchanting back and slowly shook his head. If it wasn't for his talent tree, he probably wouldn't even have the qualifications to touch her. Hua Xi did not fall into the depths. Although she could cultivate with poison, there was a limit to what she could endure. Due to the inheritance she had received, her perception of poison was sharper than anyone else's. Although she didn't have an innate skill tree, she could clearly sense that the deeper she went, the more intense the toxicity of the 5 Poisons pool's environment became. The place she was currently in was the most suitable place for her to cultivate. Gracefully landing on a protruding rock wall, Hua Xi took a deep breath and opened her arms, as if she wanted to embrace the entire 5 Poisons pool. "From now on, this is my territory," she announced happily. Unfortunately, the only audience was Lu Yi. She had once cultivated in the forest of 1,000 poisons. On the day she came out of seclusion, the forest of 1,000 poisons had completely become history. Lu Yi found it hard to imagine what it would be like when Hua Xi came out of seclusion after cultivating in such a place. Would even the 5 Poisons pool become a safe area? If that was the case, who knew how terrifying her cultivation would be? "Do you want to think about it carefully?" Lu Yi asked as he looked at the rock wall beside him. There was a small black snake the length of a chopstick. It was flicking its tongue and swimming rapidly. As the snake flicked its tongue, there was clearly poisonous gas coming out of the snake's mouth. It spat it out. "What's there to think about?" Hua Xi replied with a smile. "I can't stay here to cultivate with you. If there was enough fuel for the talent tree, it would be fine. To stay all the time, but living in such a ring all year round, under such circumstances, the fuel stored in the talent tree would definitely be consumed quickly. Even if he set up a formation here, he might not be able to block it. Block the corrosion of the highly toxic poison." Hua Xi turned her head to look at him and pursed her lips into a smile. "Yes, but I'm not a child. Cultivation is dry. There's no need for anyone else to accompany me. You've been here all this time. If it weren't for Hu Pe and Yi, wouldn't you be alone? If you can't even endure this loneliness, then how can you cultivate?" Lu Yi nodded. "You stay here. I'll go down and take a look." As he said this, he flashed down even lower. Hua Xi. She didn't even have time to stop him. Since he couldn't stay here with Hua Xi, then, at the very least, he could guarantee that there was nothing here that could threaten her life. Although he didn't say it explicitly, Hua Xi didn't know what Lu Yi was thinking. Her heart immediately warmed. Soon, she felt the violent fluctuations of spiritual power coming from below. Occasionally, there was the sound of sabers, and some strange hissing and roaring. It seemed that Lu Yi was fighting with something. Lu Yi didn't return until the next day. Although his clothes were neat, Hua Xi could tell that he had changed into new clothes. He came in front of Hua Xi and casually tossed her a storage bag. He said somewhat reluctantly, "The rumors are wrong. There are no overlord-level demon generals here." He had encountered many Cloud River Realm demon generals. There were many types, but there were no Overlord-level ones. He really wanted to find an Overlord-level demon general to test his strength. Hua Si took the storage bag and opened it. She saw that it was full of demon cores, many dark green snake gallbladders, and some poison sacs. Obviously, these were Lu Ye's gains this time. Just from these spoils of war, she knew that Lu Ye had killed a lot of poisonous creatures. This is... As Hua Si spoke, she suddenly took out a flower from her storage pouch. The flower was completely black and was about the size of a palm. At first glance, it looked like a sinister smiling face was imprinted on it. Ghost Face Devil Snare? Hua Si was stunned and looked at Lu Yi. You found it below? Lu Yi nodded. There's a large area at the bottom of the lake. I don't know what it is, but it seems to be very poisonous. I brought one back for you to see. Is it useful? He came to this conclusion because there were many poisonous creatures living in that area, and those poisonous creatures seemed to like this flower very much. It's useful. It's very useful to me. Hua Si nodded affirmatively. Then I'll go and pick them all, Lu Yi said and was about to set off again. Hua Si grabbed his arm and shook her head. No need. You have to leave some for me. One day, I'll go down and pick them myself. Lu Yi thought for a moment and didn't insist. That's fine. In cultivation, one was afraid of not having a goal. Without a goal, there would be no motivation. If he left those ghost-faced devil's snare as Hua Si's goal, she would probably work harder in cultivation. There were still many poisonous creatures in the 5 poisons pool that Lu Yi hadn't dealt with. However, those poisonous creatures didn't pose too much of a threat to the current Hua Si. It's not good to stay here for too long. Hua Si's tone was gentle. Then I'll be going. Lu Yi turned around and suddenly seemed to think of something. He said, "Oh, right. There's something else I want to give you." What is it? Hua Si was curious. Give me your hand. Hua Si stretched out a small white hand, exquisite like a white jade carving. Lu Yi clenched his fist and seemed to be holding something in his hand. He gently placed it on her hand. Hua Si's face was still full of expectation, but after feeling the furry and sharp touch on her palm, she suddenly felt as if she had been struck by lightning and her face turned snow-white. Looking up, she saw Lu Ye's face full of a smirk. Looking down again, when Lu Yi took his hand away, there was an 8-clawed spider crawling on his palm. At this moment, Lu Yi almost saw the fine hair on Hua Si's delicate skin stand up. She retracted her hand as if she had been electrocuted, flinging the spider away as if she had been greatly frightened. Following her instincts, she threw herself into Lu Ye's arms, wrapped in a fragrant wind, and hugged him tightly, her body trembling uncontrollably. The smirk on Lu Ye's face instantly froze. He never expected Hua Si to have such a reaction. He still remembered that when Lu Yushan of the Thousand Secrets Pavilion took out the lifelike spider-like creation of Yenshur on the Chess Island during the Battle of Spirit Creek, Hua Si was so scared that she smashed the spider with her palm. He just wanted to tease her before they parted, but it seemed that he had gone too far. With Lu Ye's current perception, he could clearly feel the soul-stirring curve and shape of her breasts. The tip of his nose was also filled with the intoxicating fragrance. Her hair was fluttering in the wind and tickling his face. From Hua Si's chest came a violent and rapid heartbeat, as dense as the drumbeat of a war drum. She buried her head in his arms, as if only in this way could she find a trace of security. The guilt in Lu Ye's heart erupted like a tsunami. He gently patted Hua Si's shoulder, opened his dry lips, and comforted her. But the flesh on his waist was suddenly pinched by Hua Si and twisted. After venting her anger, Hua Si finally retreated. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she stared at Lu Yi with wide eyes. Lu Yi was quite embarrassed. He avoided her gaze, scratched his head, and laughed dryly. I'm leaving. Take care of yourself. I'll come to see you again when I have time. In the end, Lu Yi did not dare to look Hua Si in the eye. Fortunately, he also knew that Hua Si would not really be angry or hate him because of this matter. It was just that this time he seemed to have bullied her too much. He secretly decided that he would not do such a thing next time. It was a pity that he could not say goodbye properly. After parting this time, he did not know when they would meet again. Chapter 778. Lu Yi, you're too bad. It wasn't until they rushed out of the 5-poison pool that Yi came out of Hupo's body and looked at Lu Yi angrily, reprimanding him. Are you a child? Still playing this kind of trick? Lu Yi pulled his head back, somewhat annoyed by the reprimand. There was a faint worry in his heart. With such a weakness, how would Hua Ci survive in the 5-poison pool in the future? 5-poison pool. On the protruding wall, Hua Ci looked in the direction Lu Yi left. When the familiar figure could no longer be seen, her beautiful eyes curved like the moon. Let's see if you dare next time. There was a faint smugness in her eyes. There was an angry rustling sound at her feet, but the poisonous spider she had thrown away earlier had crawled back. Hua Ci bent down and stretched out her jade hand, allowing the poisonous spider to climb onto her palm. Her expression was indifferent. Where was the slightest bit of fear? She even stretched out her other hand and stroked the spider's back a few times, until Lu Yi left the 5-poison pool for half a day, and after confirming that he was far away, Hua Ci took out her flying spirit tool and flew in a certain direction following some kind of feeling. She didn't know what this feeling was, but it was very real and couldn't be ignored. Moreover, there was a faint warning in her heart, but she couldn't say it out loud. So on the way to the 5-poison pool, even if she repeatedly wanted to ask Lu Yi about it, she didn't dare to say it out loud. It was as if she really did, it would definitely lead to extremely bad consequences. So she could only wait for Lu Yi to send her to the 5-poison pool, and then wait for Lu Yi to leave before acting on her own. Fortunately, there was still time. In the air, Lu Yi flew on his spirit tool, recalling the information that suddenly appeared in his battlefield imprint 2 days ago. That information was not sent to him by someone. Instead, it had appeared in his battlefield imprint without any warning, allowing him to investigate and obtain it. The information showed that he had to rush to a certain place within 5 days. Why he had to go to this place, what was in this place, and what would happen after he went, Lu Yi didn't know, but he couldn't ignore it, because he knew that this sudden information was most likely sent to him by Heaven's Secret. Other than the unfathomable and omnipresent Heaven's Secret, who else could have such unfathomable means? When he received the news, he was escorting Hua Ci to the 5-poisons pool. Since he had plenty of time, he decided to send Hua Ci to the destination before setting off. Another day later, a spirit was in sight. Lu Yi recalled the contents of the message, then looked at the surrounding environment and confirmed that the spirit peak in front of him was his destination. He wasn't too wary as he headed straight for the spiritual peak. Before he even got close, Lu Ye's keen perception had already detected the faint aura of a living person on the mountain peak. He frowned and immediately put away the Pan-Shan saber. Then he stuffed the amber into his spirit beast pouch and took out a mask to wear. He landed directly on the spirit peak. Sure enough, there was someone on the peak. It was a middle-aged man with a decent appearance. His clothes were embroidered with golden threads. At first glance, he didn't look like a cultivator. Instead, he looked like a rich man in the mortal world. People from the Tianji Business Alliance. Lu Ye's heart skipped a beat. He had been in and out of the Tianji Business Alliance many times and had interacted with many managers of the Business Alliance. Naturally, he recognized the unique style of the Business Alliance's clothing. Moreover, judging from the golden threads on the middle-aged man's clothes, his status in the Tianji Business Alliance might not be low. Greetings, fellow Taoist. The middle-aged man cupped his fists and bowed to Lu Yi. Without further ado, he threw a storage pouch over. These are fellow Taoist goods. Lu Yi raised his hand and caught the storage pouch, thinking to himself. Heaven's Secret had secretly guided him here just to exchange goods with the Tianji Business Alliance? What's inside? Lu Yi asked in a hoarse voice. The middle-aged man shook his head. I'm only responsible for delivering the goods. I don't know anything else, nor do I want to know. The goods have been delivered. Farewell. Saying so, he soared into the sky, not even willing to say another word to Lu Yi. Lu Ye's mood was complicated. What was going on? Looking in the direction that the middle-aged man from the Business Alliance left, Lu Yi looked down at the storage pouch in his hand. He was guided here by Heaven's secret. Before he arrived, someone from the Tianji Business Alliance was already waiting here and handed this storage pouch to him. Furthermore, he did not even ask about his name and background when they met. It was as though he was certain that he was the person he was waiting for and tossed the so-called goods over. Wasn't he afraid that he would give it to the wrong person? Or was he secretly guided by Heaven's secret as well? Lu Yi could not figure it out. What he was more curious about was what was inside the storage pouch. The storage pouch was locked with restrictions. However, that was naturally not a problem for Lu Yi. He broke it with a flick of his finger and reached in, taking out the items inside. The 4 crystal-like items were not big and were only 5 inches long. The crystals were not the main point. The main point was what was sealed within them. Looking at the items sealed within the crystals, Lu Yi narrowed his eyes slightly. Why does this look like? After flipping it around for a long time, he was finally certain that he was right. Heaven's secret pillars. The items sealed within the 4 crystals were Heaven's secret pillars. However, unlike the Heaven's secret pillars that Lu Yi knew, the Heaven's secret pillars sealed within the 4 crystals were not only small in size, but there were also many mysterious dark golden patterns on the surface of the Heaven's secret pillars. They seemed to be more complex and mysterious than normal Heaven's secret pillars. Lu Yi had never known that the Heaven's secret pillars could be shrunk to such an extent. It seemed that it was the work of the crystals. He did not know what the crystals were. The Heaven's secret pillars were sealed within them without leaking any aura. They were even made pocket-sized. Things were getting strange. He was guided here and the people from the Tianji Business Alliance had given him these items. What was next? Just as he was filled with doubts, there was a sudden movement from the battlefield imprint. This time, it was not a strange movement. Someone was sending him a message. Lu Yi hurriedly checked and found that it was from his 4th senior brother. His 4th senior brother had been cultivating in seclusion. He should have come out by now. Since he could not find Lu Yi and Hua Ci, he came to ask about them. Lu Yi replied and told him that Hua Ci needed to go to the 5 Poisons pool to cultivate and that he would escort her. I see. Be careful, little junior brother. Tell Giant Armor to come back as soon as possible. The wolf pack has been surrounding me. They probably want to know where Giant Armor went. Lu Yi could not help but be shocked. Giant Armor is not cultivating? His 4th senior brother was also confused. Giant Armor is not with you? I'll send him a message and ask. Lu Yi frowned. He and Hua Ci had left the spiritual land because of some business. Why had Giant Armor run away without a word? This big guy had always been the kind of person who preferred peace and quiet. He had been cultivating in Huitian Valley's spiritual land for such a long time. He had only gone out with his 4th senior brother and the others once. It did not make sense for him to run away without even saying goodbye. Lu Yi was slightly worried. Had something happened to Giant Armor? But Giant Armor did not know many people. What could have happened? He found Giant Armor's imprint and sent a message to ask about the situation. After waiting for a long time, there was finally a reply. Too much peace and quiet. I came out for a walk. Who are you? Lu Yi was shocked. Was this a message that Giant Armor could reply to? He carefully confirmed that it was indeed Giant Armor's imprint. Every cultivator in the 9 provinces had a battlefield imprint. Moreover, it was unique and could not be impersonated by others. Lu Yi found it hard to imagine that Giant Armor, who was so taciturn, could say something like, too much peace and quiet. Giant Armor had changed. After chatting with Giant Armor for a while and confirming that he had not encountered any danger and had really just come out for a walk, Lu Yi did not say anything else. Somewhere in the Cloud River battlefield, high in the sky, Giant Armor ended his message with Lu Yi with a guilty expression. He scratched his head with his large hand and sighed heavily. If possible, it was impossible for him to hide anything from Lu Yi. But every time he wanted to tell the truth, there would always be a sense of danger in the unseen world. He could not say what was on his mind. As a last resort, he could only make up a random reason. This was also the reason why he left without saying goodbye to Li Baxin and the others. He was not a person who could lie. If he really said goodbye in front of Li Baxin, he would definitely be able to see through it. He flew through the air on his flying tool. Ing Wuji was excited. As a core disciple of Sun Luo Hall, he had an extraordinary background and outstanding talent. Moreover, as a ghost cultivator, his temperament was naturally not bad. It could be said that there were not many things in this world that could make him excited. There must be one of them. The blessing of the heavens. The top 10 in the Cloud River battle for supremacy were all blessed by the heavens to varying degrees. Coming from a top sect like Sun Luo Hall, he had been carefully taught by the sect's experts since young. He naturally knew what it meant to be blessed by the heavens. Unfortunately, although ghost cultivators were a sect that could naturally kill enemies above their level, there was only one bad thing about them. In a situation like the Cloud River battle for supremacy, they could not gain any advantage. When ghost cultivators killed people, the victims often did not know that they were being targeted. Ghost cultivators could use their methods to their heart's content. However, in the Cloud River battle for supremacy, his opponents knew of his existence and were always on guard. It was not so easy for him to succeed. Therefore, even if his strength was not bad, he could only get 16th place in the end. In the entire Cloud River battle for supremacy, he was the strongest ghost cultivator in the Cloud River battle for supremacy. This kind of ranking naturally had no fate with the blessing of the heavens. Ing Wuji had originally planned to peacefully enter the Cloud River, but suddenly he vaguely felt a trace of guidance from the heavens. He impatiently stepped into the Cloud River battlefield, following the feeling in his heart and flying forward. He did not know what was waiting for him because he could not even tell his own master about it. Could this be the legendary blessing of the heavens? Then what kind of shocking treasure was in front of him? Or was it a shocking opportunity? Ing Wuji continued to move forward amidst his excitement and apprehension. Until a certain moment he suddenly stopped. For no reason at all, he felt that the undulating mountain range in front of him was his destination this time. As for where it was exactly, he needed to go deeper to understand it. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.